Hey guys. This is part 11 of What If Naruto Was One of the 7 Ninja Swordsmen of the Mist. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 51, Winds of Change. 2 days later, Konoha, Tobirama read the messenger scroll that they had received from Kirigakure with a heavy frown upon his face. Equal distrust and anxiety was visible upon the faces of his students Hiruzen and Danzo as they sat quietly in the Senju leader's private study. Every Kage had agreed to bring only 4 bodyguards with them to the meeting, muttered Danzo. It was too much to ask the Mizukage to come to IWA itself for this summit. Guess this is his way of making a powerful statement, but still bringing 4 Jinchuriki as his bodyguards. Isn't that too much and even risky? Asked Hiruzen hesitantly. Mito Uzumaki had been observing the 3 men interact amongst each other, and piqued upon hearing what was just mentioned. What? She asked in surprise, earning a grim nod from Tobirama. He's bringing Mei Terumi the 6 tails, Yura the 3 tails, Fukai the 8 tails, and Yujito the 2 tails. That itself is a powerful statement. The first one is his wife and possible successor. The other 3 are people who fought against him and lost. Became, said Tobirama hesitantly, his slaves, finished Danzo. We all know and acknowledge Kiri's power. But this is going too far, protested Hiruzen. I don't know, Hiruzen. The Mizukage is asking all of us to come into his stronghold where he has thousands upon thousands of shinobi, as well as 2 Jinchuriki of his own to intimidate us. If we include the 7 tails Jinchuriki from the land of Waterfall that has aligned with him, it's a formidable power projection which the other smaller nations will not miss. The Mizukage is answering in kind, explained Danzo with an actual appreciative smile for the bold attitude of their foe. The land of Earth's daimyo has promised peace at the summit. He even sent his own son to our daimyo as a hostage until this summit is completed, argued Mito. His second son, not his heir, countered Tobirama, making his sister-in-law sigh tiredly. Can't we all just sit at one table and discuss about this world's future in peace? Such politics are the root cause of so much mistrust and hatred that has killed thousands upon thousands all over the world. Tobirama, we must stop this madness, said Mito fiercely. We will, but this is the shinobi world, Mito. With Kiri and IWA projecting such power, we are left with no choice but to project our own, even as we make full efforts to establish peace. Saru, you must take Mito as the 9 tails Jinchuriki as well as Bunpuku the 1 tails Jinchuriki. I'll come with you as well, for there is no way I am letting Mito go there alone, said Tobirama seriously. All the Kages of the world and every Jinchuriki and tailed beast present. This sure is going to be one hell of a summit, said Hiruzen nervously, even as he offered a firm nod to his mentor. Sensei, I support your plan. But please allow me to have a task force of our most skilled warriors on standby near the border with IWA. A few thousand warriors at best. If things go south, then can you teleport us there to evacuate you, Hiruzen, Lady Mito, and Bunpuku to safety? Asked Danzo sincerely. Good thinking, Danzo. We need to have a backup in place if this blows up in our face. I'm sure the other nations, including Kiri, have their own strategy for such a situation. I can only transport 100 people at best with my chakra reserves, since I'll need a lot of strength to protect our delegation if things turn south. Choose the finest and a small group only, instructed Tobirama. Yes, sir. The 4 of them settled into a relative silence until Hiruzen voiced a point which Tobirama had wanted to avoid. Do you think any of this is even remotely connected to the coup in Yuzu? Hanzo Uzumaki was overthrown so suddenly, the entire nation went silent soon after. Our messengers were turned back and they are refusing communication on the astral channel as well. One of our key allies is in turmoil. What should we do? Asked Hiruzen in concern. Hanzo Uzumaki is a key ally of ours. I say we send our own shinobi to put their house in order, suggested Danzo harshly. Danzo, you're a fool. If you try to deploy Konoha shinobi on Yuzu's soil, my entire clan will turn against us. The Uzumaki value their freedom more than anything. They never bowed to Kumo in the past, nor will they bow to us. Besides, we all know what kind of a man Hanzo Uzumaki was. The best option for us is to wait and let the Uzumaki put their own house in order themselves, said Mito furiously. I agree. The situation is already fragile as it is. We will not allow it to become worse. We will deal with this post the Kage Summit, said Hiruzen decisively, making Tobirama sigh in relief. If it becomes stable before that, we may just see a new Mizukage at the Kage Summit, hoped Mito. Danzo clenched his fists but refrained from speaking further on this topic when he saw Tobirama giving him a pointed stare, and the unwillingness of Mito or Hiruzen to do what was necessary. If that will be all, prompted Tobirama, earning a nod from Hiruzen, who got up on his feet. They were all piqued when Danzo remained seated, making the former Hokage look at his radical student. Speak, he commanded. We should keep our troops ready for war. Every available man, recommended Danzo. The whole point of this summit is to stop that from continuing, Danzo. Keeping our people on edge will not only make them uneasy as well as drain our exhausted and limited resources, but also send a wrong message, argued Hiruzen disappointedly. The fourth Mizukage is a devious man, Hiruzen. It seems too easy to me that he agreed for peace so readily. I think this is all a farce, and if his wishes are not fulfilled, this summit could become a bloodbath, warned Danzo. Even Naruto Namikaze won't go that far. Any aggression in that summit would be going against every nation, the entire shinobi world. It would create a hell he would never be able to escape from. His fate alongside that of Kirigakure would be sealed, said Hiruzen dismissively. Are you willing to bet our nation's future on that? Said Danzo scathingly. Danzo. Tobirama slammed his hand on a nearby wall, making his two students to stop their quarreling and look at him with embarrassment visible on their young faces. We will think about what you have recommended, Danzo. Now go, both of you. The young boys nodded instantly before following their mentor and former Hokage's command. Tobirama sighed once they were gone. It was true that Hiruzen was the third Hokage and leader of their village, but ever since the return of his mentor he was more than happy to let the man make the tough choices, something which Tobirama hoped his student would be strong enough to make on his own. But as the events had proved, Saro was far from ready to take up the mantle fully yet. It would be years before he was fully capable of properly governing their village all on his own. Danzo is wrong. I believe Naruto desires peace just like us. Besides, he has as much to lose if he makes the wrong decision, said Mito confidently. The boy has changed, Mito. He was the one behind the coup in Yuzu, confessed Tobirama sadly. Looking at her shocked expression made the Senju clan head admit just what his son had been up to, and his way of thinking after everything that had happened in the past few years. To say Mito was left speechless would be an understatement. She had to take a seat even as Tobirama offered her a glass of water to calm her nerves. Danzo is not wrong to mistrust him. I thought I knew him very well, but now I'm not so sure, admitted Tobirama, regret evident on his dismayed face. He's your son, Tobirama, said Mito gently, one that I didn't raise myself. In some ways, he has experienced more pain than I did in my life. It has made him the man he is today, and if I am being honest, he is the only man after Madara that makes me wary from the bottom of my heart. Everything the boy does has a reason, even the mistakes sometimes. I think he has joined Madara, Mito confessed Tobirama. Mito clenched her fists upon that suggestion, having been told a few months earlier about the existence of a man who had been her husband's best friend and worst enemy at the same time. Someone whose actions forced her to become a Jinchuriki. It was fair to say she was not a fan of the former Uchiha leader by a long margin. I don't believe it, but if there is the slightest chance of this being true, then we need to do everything to protect our family and village. I will not let anyone's ambitions spoil the future of my granddaughter, said Mito fiercely. Tobirama was surprised with her resolve, for it was this very woman who had welcomed his son into their family, had been kind to him and prayed for his future. But that was before she lost Nawaki, her only grandson, to the war. Having already lost her children and husband, she only had Tsunade left apart from Tobirama. It wasn't hard to understand whom she would want to protect if things really turned bad. I understand, Mito. I'll ask Hiruzen to keep our forces ready for any eventuality, agreed Tobirama, earning a sad smile from the redhead beside him as she placed a comforting hand upon his shoulder. Don't lose hope yet, Tobirama. I'm sure if we give Naruto a chance to put across his point at the Kage Summit and try to find a way to accommodate his wishes, then we can keep our nation and family together in a new era of peace, said Mito confidently. Tobirama nodded even as a darker thought lingered in his heart. Will the other nations feel the same way, Mito? I truly wonder. Kirigakure. Black Zetsu watched the fourth Mizukage keenly, observing the ninja world map laid out in front of them. For all his drawbacks, the man was a gifted war strategist, something which they would desperately need if things didn't go as per his original plan. How many forces can we expect to muster? Asked Naruto seriously. 120,000. We created more white Zetsus in the past year, answered the dark creature. We'll still be heavily outnumbered. If we consider our enemies deploying maximum strength, Kiri itself can deploy nearly 60,000 troops through their legions, feudal warriors and navy. IWA will have similar numbers, while Konoha can field 50,000 or more depending upon the sand warriors that they have merged into their ranks. Remaining smaller nations combined and the feudal warriors from various daimyos across the world will add another 60,000 or more even. Nearly 230,000 to 240,000 in total, explained the Mizukage with a heavy frown. Do you truly think they'll send every available warrior and shinobi to fight us and leave their own lands with bare or no protection? Asked Black Zetsu, doubt clearly present in his voice. Yes. If you threaten their way of living, daimyo and the shinobi villages, you will have the entire world crashing down upon you like never before. They'll outnumber us nearly 2 to 1. More importantly, greater than half of the enemy forces will be made up of war veterans from every nation. Compared to Zetsu's, these warriors will have more skill and experience. In an open battle, we will be massacred quite easily, warned Naruto. We need 12 days to execute our plan, pointed Black Zetsu honestly, drawing an incredulous look from the young Kage. You expect me to hold off the entire might of humanity for 12 days? He asked in disbelief. We are aware that it is a suicidal task, but we also know that you're the only one who can pull this off. Madara is also working on additional measures to assist you in this task, rest assured. You are Naruto the Great. There hasn't been a commander like you in ages, encouraged Black Zetsu. That doesn't give me confidence. Yes, I can make miracles sometimes, but what you are asking for is impossible. You will have to execute our plan in less than 10 days, and I'll need to come up with new tactics to even give us a chance, said Naruto worriedly. Is there any way you can convince Kirigakure to side with you? Or at least some of the legions led by your swordsmen? They are the finest and battle-hardened warriors in the world right now, suggested Black Zetsu. I don't know honestly, but I will try, agreed Naruto reluctantly, making Black Zetsu sigh in frustration. You're still hoping to talk to the Kages, try the peaceful approach and make them see reason? After everything you have seen, how can you be this naive, Naruto? Rebuked Black Zetsu harshly, earning a furious glare from the Mizukage. I will not kill the hope for peace without talking to the world leaders first. Humanity has a right to know what threat they face and unite for its own sake. We humans are strange beings, unable to understand danger unless it's right in front of us. More importantly, I have a plan, a goal to give to the shinobi nations, a historic feat that mankind has always dreamed of but could never achieve due to their eternal strife. Our destiny is out there in the stars. If only I can make them understand just how vast the universe is out there. All ours for exploration. Compared to that, we are living in a cage on this world. I want humanity to gain freedom from the constraints it has placed itself in, explained Naruto patiently. You're a dreamer. The fool who sought freedom. It will truly be your epitaph if you will trust the selfish Kages to believe in that vision, mocked Black Zetsu. Even so, I will try. Besides, I can be pretty convincing sometimes. If I fail, then I will help you execute our plan to the best of my ability, said Naruto resolutely. Black Zetsu sighed even as he collected the battle plans that the Mizukage had created along with the details of the military exercises he wanted their forces to execute under the supervision of a clone of his that would be arriving for the preparations at their hideout. You walk a dangerous path, Naruto. The creature was further frustrated when he only received a cocky smirk from the 4th Mizukage in return. May had been nursing her twins when her husband entered their house, and from the looks of it, he was not in the best state, judging from the way he wobbled towards his own room. They had started sleeping separately, and had barely spoken more than a few words to each other for days. With the Kage Summit approaching in less than a few days, she knew she had to do something. But what was that something? It was the real question. She felt betrayed and hurt by a man she had loved with all her heart. Her initial reaction had been to rush to her father and clan to reveal Naruto's treachery, only to realize later that her clan's future was tied to the very same man. They helped him in his rise to Mizukage. Should he fall, the consequences for the Terumi family would be disastrous. She had lived through a coup and a civil war, had watched her own husband order the execution of the entire Karatachi clan to teach their leader Yura a lesson for his betrayal of Lord Genjutsu. The same man was still held prisoner for life and used in Kiri's battles as an example of what it meant to betray one's Kage and nation. Compared to Yugura's treason, her husband's was much worse, for unlike Yugura, who was a son of this nation, Naruto was a spy who fooled everyone, including May herself. That alone made her hesitate, for her children would surely pay the price for their father's sins, and that was something she could never allow. So she had to arrive at another possible solution, one which she was about to execute as she walked towards his room and quietly entered inside to find a sharp smell of alcohol, and a half-naked Naruto lying on the bed staring aimlessly at the ceiling. Why are you in this state? She asked frankly. Because I was feeling tensed and a bit sorry for myself. What do you care? Was the terse reply, which made her flinch, and rightly so. You've been acting more honest lately in nearly everything. The 7 ninja swordsmen or anyone else don't know anything and are making preparations to execute your plan. The shinobi are also quite excited for another campaign now that they have seen their families once again, answered May calmly, as she walked into the room, making him get up and sit on the edge of the bed. A brief respite in an endless conflict, he whispered with an amused smile. You're terrified. Naruto blinked in shock upon hearing that, and looked at his wife, who had a knowing look in her calm gaze as she saw right through him. All of this is a ploy to hide just how truly terrified you are. At first I thought it was for your own life, but you have never valued that for as long as I have known you. In fact, you are one of the crazy men who actually don't fear death and fight against the inevitable end fearlessly. You killed a Biju when you were a boy. What could terrify someone like that? The knot within her stomach tightened as May watched color starting to drain from her husband's face as she approached closer and closer to the truth. So she marched forward fearlessly. You betrayed me, our marriage, but the thing worth admirable in you as a person is the fact that you love our children dearly. No matter how much I tried to believe otherwise, I just couldn't, for somewhere in my heart I know that you would rather die than harming the future of our son and daughter. Or am I still wrong? Asked May sadly. My sins are mine to bear, May. And you're right about everything. I am terrified of the future and my part in it. If my attempts at negotiation fail, then I will wage a war on the entire world to create a peaceful future for my children and humanity. I'll most probably die on the battlefield, in the pursuit of this dream, confessed Naruto. He was surprised to see her eyes becoming moist, and the trembling of her hands worsen as she contemplated what he had just said. It was one thing to wish for his end out of anger and betrayal, but another to think of it as a reality. For somewhere deep down, there were feelings that they always had towards each other. Don't cry, May. It was always going to end this way for me. Ever since the day I decided to be a shinobi, it's the same for every one of us, including you. But I will break this cycle so our children could live the life I never got. A world which the Sage of Six Paths had dreamed of. A future in which humanity understood each other through the gift of chakra instead of killing one another using it. May felt the Biju within her paying absolute attention to the Mizukage's words, and she didn't know what made the beast so interested suddenly. Do you always try to play the hero? She asked tearfully, making him smile as he got up and walked towards the window. I was the idiot who survived this hell. Sometimes I feel I am living a long dream, and if I just open my eyes, I can be back home. The foolish island boy who didn't know just how big, beautiful and cruel the world beyond the sea truly was. For the first time, May saw a glimpse of that young boy that she had seen in Yuzu's dossier, one who had continued fighting and kept moving forward no matter what pain or challenge got thrown at him. She could not imagine how a lifetime of war would feel and understood just how tired this person before her was of this madness, and wanted freedom from it all forever. I wish I could have given you a better life if it was within my power, she whispered honestly, which made him look back at her with a smile. It was hell but also beautiful, May. If I hadn't walked on this path, we would have never met nor would our children be born. My only regret was the pain which I caused you. I don't know if you will believe me, but I came to love Kiri and its people as my own in time. They gave me everything which my own motherland took away from me and made me the man I am today, and for that I want to protect it with all my heart, which is why I want you to follow my last order. May was taken aback by the request, and as she listened as to what he wanted her to do, the lingering doubts within her heart about his intentions towards their family and Kirigakure became extremely clear. Is there no other way, Naruto? She asked in a resigned voice. Not if the other Kages don't listen. We can't be divided and always at each other's throats until the Otsutsuki, our enemy, crashes through our front door. If we still can't find reason even at this point, then perhaps we never will. Although I wish I am proven wrong, confessed the Mizukage. He watched as his wife walked towards him until she stood in front of him and looked straight into his eyes. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive Naruto Namikaze for what he has done. As he lowered his head in guilt and shame, he was surprised when May touched his face gently, and made him look back at her to see an honest smile upon the beautiful woman's face. But I believed and followed the fourth Mizukage with all my heart. He's this nation's greatest hero. One who changed mine and everyone's life for the better. Like it or not, just as you are stuck with us, our fate also rests upon you, whether we like it or not. This nation has a history of coups and betrayal, from the daimyos to its kages. Treachery and mistrust was all we ever knew until you came along and united us all as one people. Regardless of our situation in personal life, I still believe that you are the finest Kage I have ever seen. I still am not able to come to terms with your betrayal as my husband, but as your chosen successor, the fifth Mizukage, I want to prevent the mistakes of the past from repeating themselves, confessed May sincerely. What are you saying? Asked Naruto in a stunned voice, and his eyes widened as he saw his wife offer him the Spartan salute. I will never allow my nation to revert back to the days of the Blood Mist Village. We have come so far, sacrificed too many lives to achieve what we have today. The one who made it happen and the person who can secure the future of Kirigakure is you, fourth Mizukage. As long as you can promise me that future for my people and our family, I shall follow you to the very end, said May seriously, and saw him just staring at her in shock, for he had never expected this from her in his wildest dreams. And my truth? He asked in silent disbelief, stays between us. It took me a few days to truly understand, but our future lies with you. If you fall or are betrayed by me, then even if I or anyone else becomes the fifth Mizukage and our family survives the purge that shall follow, we'll repeat the same mistakes from history over and over again. I am ending the cycle of this nation's leaders betraying each other here, for it will only create an unstable and dark future for our children. They are all that matter to me along with my people, confessed May. She watched him pick up a photo of the two of them making a victorious sign with the village of Kumogakure in the background after they won that battle. A fond smile clearly visible upon his face. I chose a fine successor. I never said it out loud, but the reason I could win on the battlefield was because I knew you were perfectly governing our nation in my absence. Not too long ago, these very people hated your existence, but you never gave up or succumbed to hatred. You kept on trying and won their hearts through your actions. I forged the borders of this nation through conquest, but it was you who nurtured its very soul, said Naruto with a sincere smile, and chuckled a little when she blushed heavily upon hearing that praise. It has been an honor for all of us. Our journey began together with the Battle of Osaka to the treacherous mountain hideout of the Lightning Daimyo, to our own civil war, Battle of the Raging Seas, Battle of Haidara, Battle of Kumogakure itself, and so many more. This nation has never achieved such pinnacle of power and respect in its history, and we owe that to you, fourth Mizukage. I'm sorry it took me so long to accept and understand that beyond my personal hurt, said May honestly. For what it's worth, I ended that mistake long ago. Kaori no Kushina, which was her real name, was a part of Minato Namikaze's life as a fellow Spartan. She fell in love with him, but that boy died long ago. You and the children are my present and future. It's more than what someone like me ever deserved. That is, if you can find it in your heart to have me again. I understand you admire the fourth Mizukage, and the Naruto I was in public, which was mostly my true personality. But this is the real me. Not that perfect, huh? He asked jokingly, making her smile. Far from it. But if we are to ever move past this and trust each other again, I need to understand everything. About your past, present, and plans for the future. Do you understand that? She asked. Certainly, perfectly. What do you want me to start? He asked with a welcoming smile. Tell me everything about Minato Namikaze. Your dossier only explained your background and shinobi history. You know all about my past and childhood. I want to know about yours, understand what kind of boy you were, said May sincerely. She was relieved when he gave her a genuine smile and guided her towards the bed, where he took a seat beside her. Only she knew how much trust she was trying to put in this person after everything he had done. Maybe he had never loved her fully as the other women in his life, but she had loved him from the bottom of her heart. It was why his betrayal hurt more than anything. But even so, she had to try to understand and make things work if she could. She owed it to her children, her clan, and her nation more than anything. She was further intrigued when he asked to connect him with the Six Tails by forging a connecting between the three of them. I wanted to hear this too, the whole truth, and make his choice as I made mine, was all he said. As soon as the Biju joined them in the meld, Naruto found himself standing beside May in her mindscape as the giant beast loomed over the two of them. I understand it's hard to trust my words after my past actions, but my memories can never lie. It's all I have to answer her questions as well as any of yours honestly, said Naruto seriously. I want to know more about how you plan to end this constant war among humanity and free us tailed beasts, replied the Six Tails. The answers are in my memories. Link my chakra to yours and May. Apart from the Yamanaka clan, you tailed beasts are the only ones to access a human's memories with your power. Humanity could have learned it too had they not used chakra for warfare alone, said Naruto sincerely. The fact that you know this much is interesting itself. Very well, come closer both of you and touch my hands. The husband and wife did so quickly. Soon enough, May and the Biju found themselves standing on the beautiful beaches of Uzushiogakure. She was left speechless when she saw a young boy barely 2 or 3 years old trying to take his first steps over the beach towards a young red-haired man and a beautiful blonde woman waiting for him just a few steps away. Tears arrived in her eyes when she saw how similar this boy looked to her own son Arema. It was as if they were replicas of each other. The same went for the blonde woman who was encouraging the child continuously, even as the red-headed man before her had his arms wide open towards the child. I was born here to Inoue Namikaze and my adoptive father Yahiko Uzumaki. I never knew my real father Tobirama, for my mother sought refuge in Yuzu when her clan was slaughtered in the ending days of the Clan Wars era. She knew Tobirama would never be able to devote himself to her, and his son for his loyalty was always towards his country and elder brother. But I was lucky enough to have Yahiko who treated me as his own son even when I was never his blood. May felt her husband's voice echoing across from the sea, but she couldn't see him. Soon enough, she realized that this was probably his first memory that he still remembered. She let out a panicked scream right alongside Inoue when the child faltered in his steps. Both women wanted to rush forward to help the boy, but one was stopped by her husband while the other was stopped by the beast beside her. "Come on, son. Fight. Fight." May watched in fascination as Yahiko's words made the boy rise out of the sand and get back on his feet. There was a cut across his cheek, but not a single tear fell from those determined blue eyes which only continued to look at Yahiko, who gave him a welcoming smile. Enduring the pain, the boy kept moving forward and crashed into his adoptive father's arms with a cheerful smile, making the man raise him high in the air even as Inoue smiled tearfully. "You did well, Minato." "Did you see that, Inoue?" said Yahiko proudly. May gasped in shock as for the first time she learned that her daughter was named after her paternal grandmother. She had always imagined that Naruto had given her that name in memory of his first wife Ino, but this. She watched in silent joy as glimpses of his memories with his parents were shown to her, and the Biju. Even as an observer, she felt the joy and love within his heart upon the birth of his brother in the hospital, the values of strength and honor being imparted to him by Yahiko, ones he taught to many in Kiri to this day. Despite Yuzu being at war with Kumogakure, their parents always found time to care for the boys. She saw his bond with the Uzumaki clansmen as they helped teach him how to use chakra and in turn be fascinated by his potential with water style in particular. It was a beautiful life until she watched him visiting a dying Yahiko in the hospital, mortally injured while protecting his comrades against an endless war with Kumogakure. Even as Yahiko asked him to follow the values of the Uzumaki clan as his dying wish: family, duty, honor, May felt an unending hatred coming to life within his innocent heart as he performed the man's last rites and lit his funeral pyre. The innocent and calm blue eyes that she loved so much disappeared to be replaced by a vengeful red gaze that night. "I was so young and couldn't understand why my father had to die like that in so much pain. I still don't understand sometimes why it had to happen," whispered Naruto sadly, as the present version of him appeared beside them for the first time. "Because humans are self-destructive creatures," answered the Six Tails. "It is why we must save them," replied Naruto with determination. The death of Yahiko Uzumaki brought his wife Inoue out of retirement. With the war coming closer and closer to their home, she and her sons became shinobi to avenge Yahiko and protect their nation. It was then the first Mizukage Hanzo and the higher-ups of Yuzu saw the serious potential in Minato, as he proved his skill on the battlefield. A prodigy in every sense, she watched how Inoue fiercely opposed their desires to recruit her son into the first Special Forces program of Yuzu, knowing it would only cause her eldest more pain than he had already endured in his short life so far. In many ways, some of her powers were inherited by her eldest son, like the Hiraishin technique of her clan, but chakra absorption was something he had in his own. While her younger son, Nagato, had his own Kekai Genkai, which he named Ash Release, a power May curiously noted was now also possessed by her husband. She was heartbroken on seeing Inoue's death in the next few months and how badly it affected her sons, especially Minato. She could not imagine how would her own children feel if they lost their parents one after another in such tragic and painful ways. It would change them forever. May watched Minato volunteering for the Spartan program in the hopes of becoming more stronger, for he blamed himself for being weak and unable to protect either of his parents. The hatred for Kumogakure had infected his heart deeply, and he was ready to become a devil himself if it got him his vengeance, something which the Mizukage and the elders used without hesitation. She could hardly watch the brutal experiments and harsh training that he underwent alongside Nagato, Kushina, whom she knew as Koori the Uzumaki mercenary, and the other candidates. The hardship forged a bond between the young shinobi as they once again entered the flames of war to save everything they loved. Enemy after enemy, battle after battle, victory after victory, so much death and pain. She had heard stories about the first great ninja war from her parents and clansmen. It made her feel guilty, as while she was safe in her home, her husband had already suffered so much and was risking his life almost every day on the battlefield. Even so, his skill and leadership only matured with every battle. And then came the Battle of Rezon-La. It reminded her somewhat of their own assassination mission to kill the lightning daimyo in his mountain hideout, where he was protected by his personal guard. They had good intel. The Spartans had received slim to none. Even so, those shinobi stayed true to their mission, following Minato's orders faithfully. The full might of the Kinkaku and Kumogakure's best armies descended down upon them as she watched the most brutal retreat of her life. She felt his pain and helplessness as his friends died or sacrificed themselves one after another in the face of a relentless enemy to save their nation and fellow Spartans. For days, they retreated, losing more and more brethren until they were surrounded at Rezang-la by Raijin Battalion and the Two Tails. Most shinobi would have surrendered in the face of such monstrosity, but even at half strength and barely any capability to fight, the Spartans led by Nagato and Kushina made their last stand, bravely allowing Minato to get away with Hashirama. Tough bastards praised the Six Tails, even as she felt its anger over how the Kumogaku forces were using the Two Tails. The Spartans died valiantly, yet even in the end they slaughtered Raijin Battalion in a final testament of their skill. The Six Tails felt greatly uncomfortable when Minato returned and slaughtered his brethren without any mercy and out of vengeance. The two-tailed beast's agony was far greater than those of the ones controlling it. Yet, even as took his revenge and fought against the Kinkaku that arrived later, Minato was completely broken when his brother succumbed to his wounds. "I was the idiot that survived this hell." She remembered his words just a few minutes before and could now understand them truly as he lost his will to live, seeing the corpse of his beloved brother and all his comrades on that battlefield. He wanted to die there, but the Senju brothers Hashirama and Tobirama came back with reinforcements and saved his life, with Tobirama even asking him to continue fighting to avenge his fallen comrades. She was more horrified watching how this was the final straw and how it broke him, how his own Kage used him to cover his own decisions, and how Minato nearly killed himself until he was given one final suicidal mission to redeem himself over the death he brought to his comrades by taking up that mission in the first place. May watched him arrive in Kiri next and begin his infiltration. At first he truly was a spy who didn't care about this nation, but in time his true nature did come out. In order to protect his own sanity and broken heart, he started believing that he was one of them and started caring about them sincerely, much to the worry of his first wife Ino, who much to May's continued shock, a Konoha spy planted to not just spy on her nation but also keep the future Mizukage sane and in line. But even she, with all her training and composure, fell in love with the man. After nearly a decade of loneliness, he found someone who loved the real and broken him without any judgment. Someone who accepted him for what he was and supported him as best as she could. The fact that she truly had his back as a true wife, and not just as a fake one, and a fellow operative, made him love her back unconditionally. Her death while protecting her comrades from the death squads that Lord Genjutsu had sent out to weed out spies from their village broke him once again. Ironically, the entire campaign to flush out hidden agents failed to reveal the biggest one of them all, thanks to Ino's sacrifice. She saw how he bonded with Tobirama and how Konoha betrayed him by lying to his face about his wife's survival when she had died long ago. How Kushina came back into his life, and what Yuzu did to her, which made him decide to finally take action against the Mizukage. How a life of lies and betrayal made him lose faith in this world, and that's when Madara came along with his plan. May and even the Six Tails were left speechless upon witnessing the Uchiha and his strange comrade bringing the Spartans back to life with the help of Edo Tensei Jutsu created by Tobirama Senju. How he offered to bringing everyone Minato had ever cared about back to life if he supported his plan. His parents, his brother, his friends and comrades. Help me achieve my goal and I promise you will get to see them all once again. I'll give you back everything you lost and save your children from this messed up world. Chakra exists in every one of us. Some are able to harness its power and become shinobi. Others simply can't, but it still exists within them. Get me all the tailed beasts. If we can combine their power with my Rinnegan, I'll be as strong or even more than the Sage of Six Paths himself. With that power, I'll connect every human to each other through the chakra within them. The sage wanted humanity to use this power that he bestowed upon us for good and peace, but we didn't. So, I'll link humanity to each other via a joint conscious. People will be able to understand each other without words and truly see into each other's hearts instead of lies. Finally, using that very same connection, I'll force humanity to make a vow renouncing war among itself till the eternity. They will be able to defend each other against their enemies, but never will man raise a weapon against another fellow human, Madara had said with conviction. What happens to the tailed beasts if we succeed? I want them to be freed. It's what the sage would have wanted, Naruto had replied earnestly. They shall be free to live their own lives as long as they promise to come to humanity's aid against all its enemies, be they Otsutsuki or anyone else in the future. As descendants of the Sage of Six Paths, heirs of Uchiha and Senju clans, it is our duty to bring an end to thousands of years of war within humanity. Naruto, you and I are the same. We lost our families and friends to this cruel world. No matter what hell this world makes us endure, we shall keep moving forward and save it regardless. I am fighting for the future of the clan which I swore to protect to my brother and also the people of the nation which I founded with Hashirama, even if they hate my very guts. But I feel that you are still hesitant," Madara had said. "I just want to avoid unnecessary conflict. Enough has already been done in the name of justice or vengeance, which are two sides of the same coin. I want humanity to choose peace on its own. We owe them the freedom to make that decision at least once we lay all facts before them. Let me talk to the Kages of the world. I'll try to make them understand and humble myself if it means saving more lives," replied Naruto desperately. Madara had sighed in defeat but given a nod nonetheless. The rest of his memories answered all her remaining questions. She was left speechless upon seeing Madara actually upholding his promise and bringing her husband's family and loved ones back to life with the help of his Rinnegan. Watched the Mizukage freeing Kushina from her suffering of an impossible love and giving everyone he loved a new chance at life. Asking them to forgive and forget the boy that they knew once upon a time was a strange feeling. He even managed to revive his former wife Ino, who still loved him dearly and didn't oppose his plan, but wanted him to try talking to the world once, even as she wasn't sure what she wanted to do with her life, upon which he gave her the freedom she wanted with a smile to make that choice for herself. She learned his true thoughts as to why he revealed only a part of the truth to her that night. If he failed to convince the Kages, he was going to attack them all. In order to protect Kiri, their comrades, her and the children from the brutal conflict, he wanted her to feel betrayed and reveal his truth to everyone else, thereby securing the future and freedom for herself, their children and their comrades alongside Kiri itself, even if it meant turning him into a monster in the eyes of everyone else when he was not one completely. Much to her astonishment, it was the tailed beast who spoke before her when the memories came to an end. "You've been suffering this whole time, just like us tailed beasts," whispered the Six Tails sadly. "I meant what I said back then during our fight in the Civil War. I want to see all tailed beasts freed. Humanity took away your freedom and used your powers for abominable destruction. This practice gave birth to Jinchurikis and made my wife suffer for most of her life as well. Do you believe me now, Six Tails?" asked Naruto earnestly. "Saiken, that is my name. Call me by that," said the Biju in a friendly manner. "Then call me Naruto, Saiken." The Mizukage smiled happily when the beast shook his head and gave him a nod of acceptance, which was all that was needed to be said, which made the man turn towards his crying wife. "Naruto, as much as I admire your desire to support me and make Kiri involved, that is not the right choice. If talks fail and I truly have to fight the shinobi world, then Kiri needs to stand aside and turn against me," requested Naruto. "Why?" asked May in despair. "Because it is easier to blame one man than a fucked up system. I don't want Kiri to be isolated by the world. Even if I succeed in bringing peace with Madara, it will surely happen if you stand with me against all other nations. I cast aside Yuzu and my family for the same reason, for the sake of our children and Kirigakure. As my wife and the fifth Mizukage May, you must make the most difficult choice. Family, duty, honor. The meaning of those words is clear to me now more than ever," said Naruto gently. "You're asking me to watch you die?" "No. Play an actual part in your demise?" asked May in horror. "We'll try to make the world leaders understand peacefully first. If they don't, Madara and I have our own army and other resources to complete our plan successfully. There is no need for me to die. Trust me, I'll be back in less than 2 weeks at best," lied Naruto cheerfully. "Don't try to be a hero, Naruto. Being one your entire life has only brought you pain and suffering. Humanity can't afford to lose its finest commander right when the Otsutsuki will be arriving to kill us all. Fighting against the whole world will get you killed. I don't want our children to grow up without knowing the love of a father like you did. I also want peace, but not at the cost of killing you. How will I ever be able to look our children in the eyes afterwards? You want us all to be free, but killing you is not the freedom I or anyone else wants. If you truly want to help us, then look at surviving beyond this suicidal mission and let us help you. Let us all against the Otsutsuki, for humanity will need a devil of its own to face those monsters. You lost your father Yahiko at such a young age. Do you truly want to disappear from our children's lives before they can even remember you?" asked May fiercely, even as tears fell from her eyes. "She's right, Naruto. You can't do it all alone despite all your talents," advised Saiken. Just as he was about to avert his gaze, May came forward and grasped his face as the tailed beast ended that connection, as he found himself back in their room. "For better or worse, I am your wife. I swore to stand by you in good or bad times. More importantly, I want our children to grow up under a loving father's shadow, something which was stolen from you. I want you to continue leading Kiri, for I have now seen what a good leader can do for a nation, and what a bad one did to Yuzu in the past. That is my choice, and I want you to respect that," said May tearfully. "You stubborn woman," whispered Naruto with a faint smile, even as he hugged her fiercely. Promise me, Naruto? She asked once again. Very well, I would like to meet your family as well once this mess is behind us. They have as much of a right to meet our children, said May happily. They will love you, he replied truthfully. I hope so, replied May nervously. She watched him break the hug to look into her eyes with true gratefulness visible in his own. We're a team. No more secrets between us from here on out, understood? Asked May seriously, to which he nodded. Good. Now shut up and kiss me. I'm horny. He laughed happily without hesitation, and the sight alone made May didn't regret her decision, followed by smiling herself as he came forward and kissed her passionately. Next day, it was early morning when Naruto was woken up with a knock at his door. Brushing off the sleep from his eyes, he was happy to see a naked May sleeping next to him and clinging on to him tightly. A smile came upon his lips as he remembered what happened last night and how far she was willing to go for him even after everything he had done. The knock came more rapidly now, and it also made her grumble in annoyance, an act which he silenced by kissing her gently, which made her open her eyes and smile for a moment. Get dressed. We have visitors, he whispered with an amused smile. For fuck's sake, can't they leave us alone for one morning? She complained heatedly. You married the Mizukage, darling. Privacy is an illusion, teased Naruto, only to have a pillow smacked against his face. Then fuck you too. Now go and see who disturbed our morning, she ordered, making him raise an eyebrow in surprise. Cranky, are we today, darling? He was out of the bed in an instant the moment she narrowed her eyes at him, and even went as far as drowning her in more covers even as he walked towards the door in nothing but an underwear, and smirked when their maid blushed severely when he met her with an amused smile. Lord Fourth, Jinpachi, Amuri and Kisame are here. Said they needed your help urgently, said the poor woman. Get them comfortable. I'll be with them shortly, he answered calmly. The maid simply nodded before literally running for her life, which made him confused, for he had answered her quite calmly. However, turning around, he discovered why when he saw May glaring bloody murder and understood why the poor woman had ran for her life. It was a lesson their staff would learn very well, not to disturb the lady of their house after a special night with her husband. Something which the 7 ninja swordsmen would learn soon enough, which made him chuckle. Jinpachi and Amuri looked uncomfortable when they saw May looking at them sharply from the opposite end where she was seated on a couch with her husband. Unlike the two of them, Kisame was only staring at the Mizukage and was unfazed even as he saw the young Kage giving the 3 of them a knowing smile. What brings you to our home so early today? Asked Naruto curiously. Do tell, quipped May, sarcasm ever present in her voice, which made the 3 swordsmen grimace and Naruto to pat her knee gently. I'm sure they must have important reasons. Kisame jumped at the olive branch that was offered by their Kage in order to avoid the ire of his pissed-off wife, which was warranted in his opinion considering it was barely 7 a.m. Not that he would show it openly to anyone. We're here for Mangetsu and Haku. Specifically, we need your help in getting them married discreetly, said Kisame straightforwardly, making May's anger vanish instantly and a warm smile arriving on her lips. Naruto meanwhile simply looked curious. I always knew those two had feelings for each other. Just didn't think they would move on this so soon, said Naruto respectfully. I think the same. But it is their choice, suggested Jinpachi with a shrug. It's just if things turn to shit at the Kage Summit, we'll be in a bigger fight than before with many other nations, maybe all of them in worst case. Some of us may not come back from that, said Amuri honestly. Amuri, I, replied Naruto hesitantly, making the woman shake her head fiercely. We are with you regardless, Lord Fourth. Honored to fight and proud to die alongside you if need be. We trust you'll make the right choice for all of us and this nation, you always have. It's just those two want to fulfill their wish of being with each other and fulfill their dream, but we barely have a few days left before we need to move our legions in position. If we go for a full traditional wedding, it would force us to invite a lot of important guests from various clans and across the nation, most of whom don't know of our plan and would definitely ask us to reschedule this wedding considering such a short notice. Refusing them openly would damage the relations between them and Hozuki and Yuki clans, explained Amuri in detail. And since Naruto is the ruler of this nation in every sense, no one would question or criticize a wedding which he approved and organized. Why didn't they come to us personally? Asked May curiously. They're right outside your gate with Zabuza. We're just nervous in disturbing you so early, said Jinpachi sheepishly. Never for something as noble as this. I'll bring them in right away, said May happily, and looked at her husband once, who just nodded with a smile. As she went away to bring the remaining swordsmen inside their home, Naruto couldn't help but be amused at the way these shinobi had acted before him. They were one of the finest and fiercest warriors he had fought alongside, confident generals in their own right who could face armies on their own, but became nervous about organizing a wedding for 2 of their own. So they sent you in as bait to take the heat from either me or May first. Good idea, whose was it? Asked Naruto amusedly. Haku and Mangetsu wanted to come to you regardless of your reaction. Zabuza gave them this idea and convinced us as well. Sorry, Lord Fourth, answered Kisame hesitantly. Before the man could reply, his wife brought in the remaining swordsmen, and he clearly saw the deep blushes on Mangetsu and Haku's faces even as May assisted them in taking a seat and guided Zabuza in doing the same. The lady of the house was in full action now as she then guided the maids to serve a nice breakfast for their guests, much to the relief of some of them, especially Jinpachi, who gave a sheepish smile. It was a good tactic to make everyone more relaxed and give time to the two young ones to compose themselves, for which Naruto gave his wife a grateful nod in return, which made her smile. He still saw Mangetsu hesitating and decided to put the boy out of his misery. I'm happy for both of you. You're perfect for each other, said the fourth Mizukage honestly, making two of his generals smile in relief and happiness. Thank you, Lord Fourth. I wish I could have come to you with this under better circumstances, answered Mangetsu regardless, even as Haku squeezed his hand gently. It's never too late to get married. When you find the right one, just go for it. And you were smart in coming to the right person for organizing a discreet wedding. I do have some connections to make it happen in this week, said Naruto with a playful wink. Everyone, including Zabuza, couldn't help but laugh openly at the subtle joke, which made Naruto smile as well. Let me know whatever you need. We'll get it done, no matter what, promised May with a cheerful smile. I will, Lady May. I have a personal request as well, said Haku nervously. Name it, replied May warmly, making Haku scratch the back of her head in embarrassment. You and Amuri are my closest female friends. I would like to ask the two of you to be my bridesmaids, please. Naruto shook his head when May teared up and instantly went forward to hug Haku fiercely. Even the stone-cold Amuri became teary-eyed as she offered a faint nod to her fellow swordsman and general, even as the men looked on in silent comfort. I want you to be my best man as well, Lord Fourth. I don't have any blood brothers, but if I did have an elder brother, I would have wanted one like you. You supported my father, helped avenge him, took me under your wing, saved my life, groomed me for command, and didn't abandon me even when I made grave mistakes and nearly lost myself to hatred and sorrow after what happened to my father. Will you stand with me once again? Asked Mangetsu earnestly. Always, Mangetsu. It would be my honor, replied Naruto happily, even as he tried to hold back the tears in his eyes, making May arrive by his side and hold his hand. Even so, he was still overwhelmed as tears now fell from his eyes. Lord Fourth, whispered many of his comrades in concern, some even getting up to come to his side only to have him raise a hand to stop them and offer a grateful smile. I'm just happy and grateful. I had lost everything when I came to Kiri and had isolated myself for years in the Black Ops to keep myself away from people and getting attached in order to not feel pain again upon losing them. But meeting you all changed my life, gave me a desire to connect once again. I could have never achieved any of this without every one of you at my side. You're my family and I want you to lead long and happy lives in peace. That's all, whispered Naruto honestly. Zabuza lowered his gaze in guilt even as the others smiled or teared up on hearing what the Mizukage just said to them all. Remembering all their battles together, how he had risked his own life every time to keep them safe. What kind of a spy did that? Weren't spies supposed to weaken their enemies instead of making them a superpower? This man had done more for Kiri than any of their previous Kages or shinobi had ever contributed. He didn't know what was right or wrong anymore, and this strife within his heart had not only lost him a commanding position in the legions and get transferred to take command of the navy, but also set him apart from his fellow swordsmen. They still tried their best to keep him included, but he knew there was a distance between them now because of his continued mistrust of the Mizukage. Had he really risked all of that just over the words of a dying Kumogakure officer? No point lamenting over it now. It was already done. You too, Zabuza. He blinked in shock and looked up to see the Mizukage himself standing before him, offering his hand and a friendly smile, much to the surprise of everyone else, as well, and a pleased smile from the man's wife. After everything that happened? Asked Zabuza hesitantly. Even after that. I was irked by your behavior, but I never doubted your leadership. I gave you the navy to keep my lines of communication to Kiri safe. More importantly, I wanted you to gain much needed experience, which you have now in that kind of warfare. The role you shall play in my plan if things don't go well at the Kage Summit is the most important of all. I trust you with my life, of our family and this nation's fate. Can you trust me to do the same? Asked Naruto seriously. You can, Lord Fourth. And for what it's worth, I am sorry for my actions. Replied Zabuza guiltily. Show our enemies the demon of the mist that I respect, and we'll call it even. Zabuza straightened up and got up on his feet to shake the hand of his Kage. He was further relieved and pleased when he saw every one of his comrades and May smiling at him approvingly, making an invisible burden vanishing from his heart. Dysfunctional, Psychotic and even crazy as they all were, they were still the closest to what he had to a family, and he was glad to be back in the circle once again. Every one of them grinned when the maids brought in champagne, and they picked each of their glasses after Naruto picked his one first. "To Mangetsu!" cheered Naruto with a wide smile. "To Haku!" roared May enthusiastically. "To your amazing married life!" yelled Amiri with wild laugh. "To your memorable wedding and a bright future!" said Jinpachi with a smirk. "To our family!" cheered Zabuza with a true smile, even as Naruto clapped his shoulder happily, making the man nod gratefully in return. Haku and Mangetsu nodded at each other as they got up from their seats to join the rest of their comrades. "To family," said Haku thankfully. "To the 7 ninja swordsmen." Mangetsu thought for a second if he had made a mistake when all his comrades just stared at him, making Haku squeeze his hand gently, which proved to be the right comfort as a moment later his family roared the name of a power that had shaken the ninja world again and again. To the 7 ninja swordsmen. Chapter 52, The Beginning of the End. Madara emerged on the mountain top overlooking Kirigakure, and was not disappointed when he found his ally standing at its edge. The young Kage was calmly smoking, which drew a curious look from the Uchiha as he stepped beside the man. "Those things will kill you," he quipped with a smirk, earning a dry smile from Naruto. "You and I both know that is not how I'll ever go out," replied Naruto sarcastically, making the Uchiha chuckle and offer a respectful nod before a more grim look arrived on his face. "My Zetsu spies across the world have reported that the Mizukage has positioned many of his troops strategically in the land of Waterfall near the borders that they share with Kirigakure. Many more are stationed in Iwagakure, where he will be hosting the Kage Summit. Konoha as well as all the other nations are also preparing their shinobi and moving special forces units near your borders secretly." "Do you understand what this means, Naruto?" asked Madara gravely. He watched true disappointment arrive on the Mizukage's face as he crushed his cigarette and clenched his other fist painfully. Madara couldn't say he was surprised by what was happening, considering he had warned the young Kage about the true nature of the shinobi world, but he felt saddened nonetheless over what his ally was feeling right now. He reminded Madara of Hashirama in many ways after all, a friend whom he loved and disagreed with strongly at the same time. Tobirama would never support such a drastic action. Besides, Konoha is an ally of Kirigakure, argued Naruto in defense. "Your father is just a cog in the Great Wheel. I agree he wouldn't support such an action against you, but he's not the Hokage anymore. Hiruzen is, and you have already threatened him once on discovering how they lied to you about Ino's death in the past. You have destroyed the Water and Lightning Daimyo's rules alongside their entire families. You overthrew Hanzo Uzumaki, who was a key ally of Hiruzen, turning Yuzu from a steadfast to an unreliable ally. You crushed one great village and nation alongside annexing few smaller ones. What's to stop you from taking more? No matter how much you want to make peace with all these villages and nations, you are the gravest threat to their very existence and way of living. A military threat to the shinobi world order and a political one to the daimyos who truly control this world," explained Madara patiently. The Uchiha stepped in front of the young Kage and looked straight into the man's eyes, even as despair spread across his heart. "You are the devil that they all fear most, greater than the Otsutsuki whom they don't know. Try talking to them if you want, but it would still end in conflict. In the end, they find it easier to blame one man than their own flawed shinobi world that gave birth to the very devil that they fear," said Madara somberly. It was truly disheartening for Naruto to hear that. He understood why it was happening, and it made sense in a twisted way for him to be considered as the enemy of the shinobi world by the ones who ruled it. However, a part of him wondered just how much more harm could human beings cause to each other in the pursuit of their goals, and he was a part of the problem itself. Despite witnessing the horrors of 2 great ninja wars and countless deaths, the shinobi world was willing to shed even more rivers of blood until the end of time. Was this the kind of world he would bestow upon his children and loved ones? Make them continue living in an endless hell? To repeat the cycle over and over again? You play the bad guy next. Hanzo Uzumaki's words came back to haunt him once again as the Mizukage wondered if the first Mizukage had truly foreseen such turn of events with his experience. Even if this was the bitter reality, there was no going back now. "I'll try regardless. And if they still refuse to see reason, then they'll rue their own decision," promised Naruto fiercely, his killing intent clear for the Uchiha to see. Knowing what the 4th Mizukage had planned for exactly such a scenario made a part of Madara's heart wish the Kages saw reason, for none of them could imagine the hell they would be facing at the hands of this devil. "Will Kiri or Yuzu stand with you?" asked Madara seriously. "This is our fight, Madara. We swore to each other that we would never act like the despicable Kages that send others to do their bidding while saving their own lives, that we would fight at the head of our battles and crush our enemies with our own hands. If the time comes, will you fight by my side?" questioned Naruto honestly. "Till the bitter end, Naruto. It doesn't matter what they throw at us, It was always down to the two of us and the forces under our command. I'd rather fight in an army of sheep led by lion than an army of lions led by sheep themselves. Heh, those fools don't know what they are going to face, said Madara excitedly. Does that mean you will be on the front line? Asked Naruto curiously. Of course. It's been damn too long in the shadows. It's time I remind these brats who Madara Uchiha is. You could use my help on the battlefield and I'll bring in some special surprises too, answered Madara frankly. This can only end in one way for us, Madara. I hope you understand that, replied Naruto with a resigned smile. Victory or an even complete victory. A surprised Mizukage looked at the older Uchiha who had a confident smile upon his face as he extended his hand towards him. We'll do it. Together, we shall put an end to 3,000 years of blood-stained history ruled by shinobi with our own hands. We won't falter and keep moving forward until that day comes, promised Naruto sincerely, as he shook the Uchiha's hands. A smile came upon Madara's lips as he glanced at the only man who truly understood his dream for humanity. Something which even his best friend Hashirama couldn't. As their chakra made contact with each other through the handshake, their eyes widened in shock when they both saw a fleeting glimpse of an old man possessing the Rinnegan looking at the Uchiha and Senju clan descendants with a relieved smile upon his aged face before disappearing away. It was midnight when Naruto found himself discreetly visiting a house on the outskirts of Kirigakure. He easily evaded the very Umbu he had put on guard duty and entered the targeted property to find the person that he wanted to meet to be fast asleep. He looked at the disgraced shinobi and could not help but wonder how his actions had led him here, just as Naruto's own would soon lead him to his own destiny. Yura. He called out the disgraced third Mizukage and waited patiently as the man awoke from his slumber to groggily look at the intruder in his home. Compared to the ending days of the Civil War, the man had progressed a lot. Instead of the dark dungeons, he now had a place of his own thanks to his service and the multiple suicidal missions he undertook for Kirigakure in the campaign against Kumogakure. Not that he had much of a choice, for he was a slave of the man who overthrew him. The same man who executed his entire clan and the reason for Yagura's continued torturous existence. Naruto was not surprised when he found an unsettling hatred arrive in the man's eyes as he looked at the fourth Mizukage. What brings you here after all this time, my fellow traitor? Asked Yagura scathingly. The fourth Mizukage could not help but wonder if not for the seal preventing him from revealing the truth that his tailed beast had told him, Yagura would have revealed Naruto's true identity as a former Spartan and spy long ago. Good to see you too, Yagura answered Naruto calmly. You promised to let me die if I served you in the Second Great Ninja War? I did that. Why the hell am I still alive then? How long will you keep me away from my family after taking them all away? Asked Yagura angrily. He had made his wish to die clear to this man so many times ever since the embers of conflict started to dwindle. Instead, he found himself marched back home alongside the army, confined to house arrest, and now was informed that he would be escorting Naruto to a Kage Summit of all places. I will give you the freedom that you seek, Yagura. You will see your family soon. But before that you have one more duty to fulfill towards this nation, said Naruto honestly, earning a scoff in return from the Karatachi clan head. Why should I care about this nation? The people abandoned me and just watched as you executed my entire clan, replied Yagura bitterly. Because you were the third Mizukage, no matter how brief. Yagura's eyes widened upon being reminded of who he once was even as Naruto came beside him and looked straight into his eyes. We must all pay the price of our sins. In life and in death, maybe even beyond that. The disgraced Kage was left speechless as his successor revealed what was it exactly that he wanted from him. The price to gain his freedom to finally die and be with his clan in the afterlife. A way to end his suffering and maybe even achieve something that would redeem his and the Karatachi clan's name. Even save Kirigakure from certain doom. You have everything that I ever wanted. The respect of this nation, the trust of the warriors and shinobi, the love of a family. And yet why go so far? Asked Yagura silently. Because I can see something beyond this hell. A better world, or at least a new path where men like us are never born. I am a spy and yet I care about this nation, its people and their future with all my heart, which is why I need your help. You're the only one who can answer Naruto truthfully. You're the craziest person that I have ever met. Naruto laughed boisterously upon that honest statement, making Yagura shake his head tiredly. But maybe this world needs someone like you. A devil who can give a taste of its own medicine to the shinobi world. If you asked me, humanity can go fuck itself and die in a ditch. It's not worth saving or risking all that you have now, advised Yagura frankly, without mincing words as usual. This is where we differ, disagreed Naruto calmly. Is this truly the only way? Asked Yagura curiously, making Naruto look at him with an honest smile. One day, It is my hope that all nations can unite under one cause, which is humanity and its future in this universe. Men shall always rise and fall, but humanity will be eternal. The Empire of Man is a world in which Kirigakure shall stand alongside mankind as its ally and not as a pariah, promised Naruto. He looked down to see Yura offering him his hand, which the fourth Mizukage shook somberly. Then let's keep moving forward until we both face our own reckoning. The two Mizukages nodded at each other, and for the first time felt a strange peace within their own hearts. 3 days later, Naruto had a content smile upon his lips as he watched Mangetsu and Haku take their wedding vows in a holy temple near the feudal capital of the former water daimyo. Attending the event were a small group of people, which included the bride's father and clan, whereas the fourth Mizukage himself stood in the place of father, best man and brother for Mangetsu, who had none. The 7 ninja swordsmen were also present alongside General Abe and many other top commanders of this nation. Naruto saw his own wife May smiling and cheering the newly married couple as they kissed each other, even as their trusted maid kept a dutiful watch over their twin children nearby. Watching them all be so happy and at peace for once made all the effort that went into organizing this wedding at such a short notice worth it. Knowing what was to come, it was all he could offer to them after all they had done for him. A truly wonderful event at such a short notice you have organized, Lord Fourth. Naruto turned to his right to see General Abe stepping by his side and offer him a grateful smile, which made him offer the older warrior a respectful nod. It was the least I could do for them, replied the Mizukage calmly. I have been filled in on the plan we all are supposed to execute should things turn south at the Kage Summit. Rest assured, I alongside Lord Minace Teremi and Lord Yuki will keep our homeland and other territories safe with the reserves while you and the legions do what's necessary, assured General Abe sincerely. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. I would prefer for everyone to see reason peacefully than through the tip of a sword after such a brutal and costly war, answered Naruto. I suppose you can't tell me the reason we agreed to a ceasefire and attempt negotiations apart from the obvious military challenges in our prolonged campaign against the Wagakure? Asked General Abe with a shrewd smile. All in due time at the Kage Summit, General. I'll lay across everything for the entire world to witness, so together we can chart our future. Whatever it may be, replied Naruto seriously. Seems you have quite the show in mind for all of us to see. Well, I for one look forward to it, agreed General Abe with a gentle smile. The veteran general was intrigued when he watched the Mizukage look at him with the utmost seriousness visible in his eyes. Abe understood clearly what was being asked of him, and for once he had no hesitation in giving his answer with the utmost sincerity. I promise, Lord Fourth. 2 days later, Naruto stood in the largest training ground of Kirigakure and was proud to see all the legions of this nation assembled before him in all their might, led by members of the 7 ninja swordsmen. Beside him stood his wife, and in the back stood a disinterested but silent Yura as well as a calm Fukai, all 3 Jinchuriki who will be accompanying him to the Kage Summit. He looked at his army and realized this was the final chance he had to speak to them in person before walking into a brutal conflict if things didn't go as per his plan. My warriors! Thousands of souls looked at him without a flinch and stood even more straighter than before upon hear his war cry. This is our time. Yura clenched his fist as he saw the absolute loyalty and admiration in the eyes of the Kiri shinobi as the fourth Mizukage called out to them. For all his faults and hideous truth, he could not deny that the blond man before him had a way with connecting with the hearts of shinobi. Knowing what he did now made him understand the man a little, even if he hated him from the bottom of his heart for ordering the execution of the Karatachi clan. You and I are the same, Naruto. Just as I did what I felt was best for the future of this nation, you are doing what you feel is best. In the end, the two of us are just selfish men with a mission of our own. Our journey shall end in hell together because it is where devils like us belong, thought Yura with a resigned smile. Unknown of his predecessor's thoughts, the fourth Mizukage continued his speech to their shinobi. Each of us has worked tirelessly and offered their hearts to create a better world. It is not just for the sake of our people but for the sake of all those that joined us in our long march. From this point forward, our struggle is for a better future for all of humanity, yelled Naruto fiercely. Fukai looked at the man who destroyed his nation, his clan, his family, the one who erased the land of lightning and Kumogakure from the annals of history. Now, he was forced to follow the very same man's command in exchange for a peaceful future for the rest of his people. For all his brutality during the war, Naruto Namikaze had treated every citizen of Fukai's nation who surrendered to his rule with equal respect and rights as those he provided to the people of Kirigakure. In the year that followed since their defeat, the Mizukage, with the help of his wife who was a fellow Jinchuriki like Fukai, did more for the downtrodden citizens of his nation than their own lightning daimyo had ever done in decades. The fact that Jinchuriki like him got equal rights and even respect was a testament of Mei's efforts as well as her husband's magnanimity. It was why he could understand why this army loved this man and would march into hell itself if he asked. If I had been born in this nation, I would have volunteered to serve someone like you instead of simply serving out of duty towards my people. Today we take a new step towards building that future for humanity by attempting to create a lasting peace and cooperation with other nations. To set aside our differences and work for the greater good of mankind. It won't be easy or without sacrifices, but for the sake of our children and loved ones, it must be done. I ask every one of you to join me in this reform," requested Naruto passionately. May was pleased to see the 7 ninja swordsmen thumping their fists against their chests. Following their example, every legion under each of their command followed that action in unison, earning a proud nod from their Kage. "Make no mistake, we shall strive for this future. Should the other nations disrespect this dream or consider this cooperation as our weakness, then what shall be our answer to them?" demanded the 4th Mizukage coldly. "Death." The thunderous war cry from the Kiri army made Fukai flinch, Yura to smirk, and May to take a deep breath and look at her husband, who nodded decisively at that promise. "I promise you this as the 4th Mizukage. I will never stop fighting for the future and interests of this nation, be they in the Kage Summit or the battlefield." The roar of the Kirigakure army echoed across their entire village, making Naruto's eyes moist as he glanced at the army that he had created. Pride bloomed within his heart as he looked at the men and women who had followed him in battle after battle, fought and bled for his victories, never wavered even once no matter what got thrown at them. Even now they were all willing to fight against the entire world if needed for the sake of his vision. These people made him a Kage in the truest sense, an honor his own motherland never deemed him worthy of because he wasn't an Uzumaki by blood. The 7 ninja swordsmen, May, Yura and Fukai alongside every member of the Kiri army were left speechless when the 4th Mizukage bowed respectfully towards them all sincerely. It only lasted for a fleeting moment, even as a deafening silence engulfed the entire field. They watched their Kage rise back up and unleash his infamous sword Muramasa and pointed it towards them with an unmistakable pride for them in his eyes. "It has been my greatest honor to fight alongside every one of you and our fallen comrades." With a firm but respectful nod, the Mizukage created clones of himself that took up positions with each of the 5 legions of Kirigakure led by the 7 ninja swordsmen. Dark wings made up of ash-like chakra emerged on his back alongside those of the 3 Jinchuriki accompanying him to the Kage Summit. As one they rose off the ground as their army started its march towards the village gates. As Naruto led the army once again, he was astonished to see not only the villagers of Kirigakure but people from all parts of their country gathered within and outside the walls. With every passing moment, even more citizens were arriving, proud smiles and hope evident in their cheerful gazes. "Lord 4th, good luck." He looked below to see a group of young children waving at him excitedly with bright smiles upon their faces. And it was not just the children, but everyone. "The future of Kirigakure and the world is in your hands, Lady May. Thank you for improving the future of our children. All of you come back home safely, all right? Show those other nations our true power." Yura had an openly visible jealous smile on hearing the sheer amount of cheering being bestowed upon his successor and his army. "What a grand send-off," he commented sarcastically. He expected a sharp rebuke in response to that comment but was surprised when he received a wry smile from May and a smirk from Fukai. "Well, we weren't being secretive, and with the kind of commotion we made, this was bound to happen," replied May sheepishly. "So much for secrecy," commented Yura with a sarcastic smile. Fukai curiously watched some of the 7 ninja swordsmen like Aim Yuri and Jinpachi actively cheering back towards their people alongside the legions that followed them, making their countrymen even more euphoric. "This is the first time I have seen civilians and shinobi getting along so well," said Fukai, the former Kumogakure Jinchuriki, curiously, something which his own heavily militaristic village had never seen during its brief existence. Their people respected the power of their shinobi, but the sheer amount of admiration and blind trust in the eyes of these people for their shinobi was something which was quite unique. As far as the blood-stained history of this nation goes, this has never happened before until this era, admitted Yura begrudgingly. May smiled upon that remark even as all 3 Jinchuriki looked curiously at the man who had made this reality happen. She didn't miss the impact of Yugura's admission upon her husband as well as the sheer cheering the 4th Mizukage was witnessing from his people. A bright smile came upon the blonde Kage's face as he raised his right hand high in the air. "Yeah, hi!" May's eyes widened in shock upon hearing that ferocious roar from the 4th Mizukage that echoed across the entire village and every citizen, making them all go silent for a moment, before the entire crowd returned that roar with equal ferocity, making their Kage grin with pride even as a lone tear fell from his eye. "Yeah, hi!" As he roared once again out of pure joy and hope, He was more than delighted when the Kirigakure army and its citizens roared back together in unison, making the very ground shake. The fourth Mizukage raised his infamous sword with a renewed determination and pointed it forward with a fierce look in his eyes. Our final mission for a peaceful future for all of humanity begins today. Kirigakure's legions alongside its citizens roared together one last time upon hearing their Kage's final command. Advance! Chapter 53, The Kage Summit. Iwagakure. Anoki had stood proudly at his master's side as the second Tsuchikage welcomed leaders from across the world inside their strongest castle built upon the tallest mountain overlooking the great village of Iwagakure. The delegates were invited respectfully inside the war room and made to sit at their designated seats across a large and well-polished wooden round table. Proper refreshments had been served for each leader and their escorts, as was the custom. Iwagakure's administrative ninjas had even taken great care to not make the most bitter nation leaders sit right beside each other. But having just stopped the Second Great Ninja War, where virtually every nation took part in one or the other side, it was a doomed task. At the start of this war, 5 great nations ruled the world alongside several smaller ones allied with different sides. Now, they were down to the 3 great nations and 4 smaller ones. 7 nations in total that would decide the fate of humanity for many decades to come. Everyone inside his village and shinobi leadership knew about Anoki's desire to continue the war and see Konoha alongside Kirigakure learn their real place in the world. But the second Tsuchikage, Lord Mu, thought otherwise alongside the Earth Nation's daimyo himself. They were wary of their enemy's strength, especially the war prowess of the fourth Mizukage. It was why this summit was organized by Iwagakure, and every standing nation had been invited to be a part of it. Their strategists believed it was the best possible option for them to arrive at an acceptable peace with the other nations now that all their allies had fallen. Even their enemies knew prolonging the war would have devastating consequences for everyone and had agreed to negotiations, even Kirigakure, much to Anoki's surprise. Maybe Lord Mu had truly seen something which he hadn't, and in the event he was proven wrong, Anoki had been entrusted with their backup plan of action which he had executed perfectly with some unexpected help. He could not help but smile when he saw Hiruzen Sarutobi the third Hokage walking towards them alongside his escort Tobirama Senju the second Hokage, Mito Uzumaki the nine-tails Jinchuriki, and Bunpuki the former San Jinchuriki of the one-tailed beast now under Konoha's service. "It's a pleasure to meet you," Lord Mu said Hiruzen with as much confidence as he could muster, even offering his hand to the older Tsuchikage, a gesture which was accepted and returned by the masked Kage after a very long look at his younger counterpart. "Welcome to Iwagakure," said Mu guardedly, but his tone held the required respect. The second Tsuchikage surprised his own men by walking forward and actually offering his hand to Tobirama, which the pale-skinned Senju shook cautiously. "It's been quite some time since we met last, Lord Tobirama. And you grow even more beautiful with every passing day," Lady Mito said Mu, as he then kissed Mito's hand, earning a shrewd look from the redhead. "And you're as ambitious and cunning as ever, Lord Mu," replied Mito sharply. Anoki bristled at the subtle insult, but his Kage laughed it out before acknowledging the San Jinchuriki with words of condolence for his fallen nation and Kazekage. The monk simply nodded and remained silent, much to Mu's ire, as he had expected some sort of reaction from a former ally now turned prisoner. Hiruzen and Anoki exchanged a glance, and the Iwagakure Jounin couldn't help but offer a firm nod, earning a relieved smile from the third Hokage as their party was escorted inside the war room by other Iwagakure ninjas. The next was the leader of Amigakure, Hidden Rain Village, Hanzo Salamander, who much to Anoki's surprise was quite a courteous man whom even the Tsuchikage had pleasant words with before being escorted inside. The Hidden Grass Village was next, as its Kage Yosuke Meiji exchanged just a curt handshake and basic pleasantry with the Tsuchikage, a clear representation of their former allies' changed attitude now that the war situation had developed contrary to Iwagakure's promises. They had fought for Iwa and had now lost half their territory to Konoha's retaliation. Anoki spotted the lone exception to a summit full of ninjas as Mifune of the samurai exchanged a respectful bow before the Tsuchikage, one which the Kage returned in equal respect. Frankly, Anoki doubted why the samurai were even invited, but the Earth Daimyo felt they deserved the honor despite being weaker than shinobi and being heavily outnumbered. It was the highest honor a sect of warriors without a nation could gain, more than what they deserved if Anoki was being honest. Followed by Mifune came the leader of their closest and strongest standing ally land of waterfalls. Its first Kagekakuzu was scary-looking and the tallest man Anoki had ever seen. It was rumored the man had went up against Hashirama Senju in the previous war in single combat, and lived, a feat very few shinobi except Madara Uchiha could boast about. When the Takekage looked down at him due to Anoki's smaller frame, the young shinobi felt a shiver across his entire body when those green malice-ridden eyes saw right through him. Definitely a shinobi he wanted to avoid in battle, Thankfully their nations were close allies facing the mutual threat of Kirigakure. Only 2 more national leaders left to arrive: Uzushiogakure and Kirigakure. One was a staunch ally of Konoha, which was rumored to be undergoing a secret civil war surprisingly, while the other was the biggest threat to Onoki and his nation's very existence. If only he had the power to obliterate them both from the annals of history. Any further thoughts didn't come to his mind when he spotted a trio of kunoichis approaching towards them. Unlike the other nations who had fully utilized the allowed limit of a kage being escorted by 3 supporters, this new group was a member short. And unlike the other delegations that had slim to none kunoichis in their escort for the summit, this group was made up of women completely. Even Lord Mu looked as if he had seen a ghost from the past when he saw a stunning blonde leading the group. Granted, she was one of the most beautiful women even Onoki had ever seen, with her unblemished pale skin. Inoue Namikaze, I thought you had died in the first war. The Reikage assured me of that personally, said Lord Mu in barely concealed shock, earning a cunning smile from the blonde woman. I am very much alive and well. The second Mizukage at your service, said Inoue sarcastically, making one of her bodyguards chuckle. Namikaze? Asked Onoki with barely concealed hatred, some of his killing intent leaking out, earning a murderous wrath in return from the Yuzukage's escort, particularly from the younger redhead whom her leader had to rein in with an admonishing look. Kushina, no need to be rude to our hosts unnecessarily. Let's not lose our manners, warned Inoue in an icy cold voice. Onoki flinched as the female Yuzukage gave him a sharp look that made his heart skip a beat out of sheer terror, for those eyes reminded him so much of a certain Mizukage. Commander Reika, I am tired from our long journey. Lord Mu, shall we get some refreshments, please? Asked Inoue calmly. The stunned Tsuchikage got out of his stupor and quickly agreed to the request, directing his other subordinates to escort the Yuzu delegation inside. As soon as they were gone, Onoki looked at his mentor and Kage sharply. Lord Mu, this is… Shut your mouth, Onoki. Do not mess with that woman if you know what's best for you. We will deal with her in time, ordered Mu strictly, earning a nod from his student quickly. As the young jounin actually looked at the bingo book, he flinched even more upon reading some of the past exploits of this new Yuzukage. The fact that she had destroyed an entire Kumogakure battalion that also had shinobi twisted with the chakra of tailed beasts single-handedly was a testament to her prowess. More importantly, this directly changed a lot of things, but Onoki didn't get much time to think over the consequences when the final delegation arrived a few minutes later. It was clearly visible from the way the IWA shinobi manning the castle's walls and inner courtyard froze in their spots as a commanding and very much intimidating chakra signature entered. Around him were not 3 but 4 Jinchuriki, making his total number of group members higher than permissible limit. In the very entrance itself, the 4th Mizukage was making his presence felt much more than any other kage before him. Onoki couldn't help but see the striking resemblance the man shared with the new Yuzukage, with his pale skin, smooth golden blonde hair, and the same piercing blue eyes. It actually confirmed something which he had refused to believe earlier. The Mizukage was wearing his jounin flak jacket and dark pants covered by a stark white haori with his title imprinted on the back. Around him were 4 fully armed Jinchuriki, 2 from the fallen Kumogakure and 2 from Kirigakure, his wife Mei Terumi, and the dethroned former Mizukage Yura Karatachi. The man had an aura that commanded the attention of everyone around him, and the looks which made quite a few kunoichi from IWA itself steal glances, only to receive a murderous look from the man's wife which made them look away quickly. Quite the entrance. Lord Forth, said Mu carefully, displeasure evident in his tone not just at the man but also at his own men, who had informed him that this man had left Kiri with 3 Jinchuriki, when in secret he was bringing 4. You broke protocol, Mizukage. We had agreed that each kage could only bring 3 escorts. You brought 1 more than everyone else, and a Jinchuriki at that, said Onoki scathingly, only to earn a cold smile so similar to that female Yuzukage that it was haunting. I think it's only fair to bring in a little extra, considering I am walking directly into a village we are yet to negotiate a peace treaty with. Besides, I wanted dear Yujito to see the great Iwagakure in all its glory. Are you telling me you are scared of one curious girl over the thousands of shinobi you have at your back here? Here I thought you had more courage and faith than that, taunted Naruto sweetly. Mei and Yujito couldn't help but smirk on seeing Onoki bristle at that acidic remark, while Yugura and Fukai observed the second Tsuchikage giving a pointed look to his student before looking back at the Mizukage. We can set this aside, Lord Forth. However, for the sake of parity, one of your Jinchuriki needs to stay in the guest quarters in this castle. If we allow you to bring more than allowed people with such dangerous powers at that, the other kages would not take it lightly, warned Mu gently. Every nation, including yours, has every Jinchuriki under their command inside that room. Mine will do the same, or the summit is over, challenged Naruto without a flinch. Are you that inflexible and used to breaking the established rules of conduct? asked Mu with a heavy frown. The fact that I am here to negotiate should answer your first remark, Lord Second. And let's not debate about the rules of conduct because each of us would be proven guilty of failing that. If it's any consolation, I seek peace for my people but will not make unnecessary compromises, more than what I already have. In my place, you would have done the same damn thing and we both know it. So, what shall it be, Lord Mu? Questioned Naruto in return, unwavering determination present in his hardened gaze which made Inoki clench his fists. Unlike his enraged student, the second Mizukage was impressed with what he had seen so far. For all his faults and the threat he was to Mu's village, the Mizukage had seen more resolve in this man than any other Kage that he had met today. Naruto Namikaze was different from the others, be it the battlefield or in times of peace. He could now understand what Genjutsu Hozuki had seen in the man that made the second Mizukage choose this man as his successor over everyone else, including his own son and other ninja clan lords from Kirigakure. It led to a brutal civil war which this man won. The fact that he kept Yura around as a trophy of his triumph made Mu respect him more. After Hashirama and Tobirama Senju, he was the first person whom Mu was genuinely curious to interact with further. Very well. For the sake of a successful Kage Summit, we will allow this. I hope the other Kages don't take too much offense to your brazenness, remarked Mu with a smirk. I'm right here to resolve those offenses should they arise, answered Naruto with a cunning smile, even as Mu ordered his subordinates to escort the Kiri delegation inside while ignoring his fuming student and focusing on the Mizukage's back. With 4 Jinchurikis by your side, only a foolish Kage would like to challenge you openly so soon without substantial backup, and you know it, Naruto Namikaze. Tobirama Senju had gone deathly pale upon witnessing his former lover and mother of his son, Inoue Namikaze, enter the war room alongside her 2 escorts. He was left even more speechless when the woman who was supposed to be dead gracefully walked forward and sat on the chair reserved for the Mizukage. He was not the only one in this shock, as the other Kages also were quite astonished, for Hanzo Uzumaki had been the leader of Yuza ever since its existence. On being questioned over it by the Ain Kage, who also happened to share the same first name as the previous Mizukage, Inoue answered simply with her usual friendly but sharp smile. Long story short, we felt a change was necessary at the top. A progressive one at that, which ended up with the Uzumaki clan asking me to be the next Mizukage, said Inoue. They must be really desperate if they chose somebody not from their own clan and a woman at that to lead them. Has Yuzu become so weak? Such a shame, mocked Kakuzu, the leader of the land of waterfalls. Says the bitch of Iwagakure. Hope Iwa's rocks aren't too hard for your watery asshole. It took a moment for that remark to sink in before nearly everyone burst out laughing, except for Kakuzu, who was livid as he unleashed his full killing intent, making his bodyguards take up arms. Shut up, woman, or I'll kill you, threatened Kakuzu furiously. Make me, bitch. Mito gawked at the sheer balls attitude of the first female Kage of the shinobi world. A part of her wondered how she was alive and could only imagine it had something to do with Naruto's recent actions in Yuzu. Looking at the blonde beauty now, Mito clearly understood as to why she was the only woman Tobirama had ever loved and even had a child with. No one else could have gotten through to a stubborn man like him. It was quite visible that Naruto had not only inherited his mother's looks, powers, and most importantly a frightening courage. In a room full of several Kages and Jinchurikis, the former of whom were all men, Inoue Namikaze remained firm. Despite having the smallest army left among all nations, Yuza had a strong leader willing to defend its honor and people without hesitation. So this is the revolution that you planned, Naruto thought Tobirama in disbelief. He was alarmed when Kakuzu actually moved to attack the Mizukage, making Hiruzen and the Senju clan head to get up from their seats swiftly alongside many others delegates. A lone kunai was thrown by Inoue, which Kakuzu dodged with a cocky smirk, only to freeze the very next second when a cold kunai was placed at his neck and Inoue Namikaze stood behind him with an intimidating cold blue gaze boring into his very soul. I wonder how it feels to kill a Kage, she remarked murderously. The other Kages inside the room had clearly seen the feared teleportation technique executed right before their eyes, the same as the 4th Mizukage and Tobirama Senju himself. Even Kakuzu, for all his rage and bravado, took a few steps away from the woman as she placed the kunai back in her pouch, even as her twin escorts had already detained the Takekage ninjas swiftly. Yuzushigakure had made its point. They were not to be underestimated by anyone. In a world where power was everything, the dangerous display did its intended job, as the other Kages asked Kakuzu to maintain the decorum while asking Inoue to do the same, albeit with much more caution and respect. She actually complied, forcing Kakuzu to do the same alongside the escorts from both smaller nations backing off. As Inoue walked back to her seat, she found Tobirama staring at her intensely, making her pause and look at her former lover. It's been a long time, she whispered cordially, Tobirama was still unable to say anything. How was one supposed to feel or react when the only woman you ever loved, the mother of your child, one who was supposed to be dead for so many years, turned up before you very much alive? Thankfully, he had Mito for such situations. His sister-in-law actually greeted her clan's new Kage with a friendly smile. It's truly historic that my clan chose a new leader, and that too from someone outside our blood. Konoha looks forward to working with you, Lady Second, said Mito honestly. What happened to your predecessor? Asked Hiruzen rather sharply. He chose to retire. After all, he was very old. It was difficult to inform our allies quickly considering the situation. I hope you understand, Lord Third, answered Inoue calmly. But the edge in her voice was clear for Hiruzen to hear. What are your intentions, Lady Second? He asked again seriously, ignoring Mito and Tobirama's heavy frowns alongside a sharp look from the new Mizukage. Before Hiruzen could say anything more, his mentor spoke for the first time. Why go so far? Asked Tobirama in a barely audible whisper. But his former lover did hear it even as the door to the war room opened once again. You'll never understand, Tobi. The second Mizukage had a faint smile upon her lips, unlike every other Kage, as they saw the fourth Mizukage alongside his escort staring back at them from the entrance to the room, and Tobirama watched the boy prove himself as this woman's son with his next words. Huh, and here I thought we were having a peace negotiation conference. Every Kage inside the war room had already gotten up from their seats due to the earlier clash between two of their fellows and were now rooted in their spot when they saw the most fearsome of them all arrive. Inoue couldn't help but secretly swell with pride as she saw the grudging respect every Kage showed her elder sons swiftly with firm nods, which the fourth Mizukage returned with one of his own. Despite being the second youngest Kage after Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Mizukage was the center of attention as he walked inside alongside his group of Jinchurikis. At 27, Inoue's son had achieved more than any other Kage in this room. A fact which they all knew and acknowledged when none of them dared to take their seats until the Mizukage reached his own and looked at them all. Tobirama could not help but remember his own deceased elder brother apart from Madara, who were the only men to command such respect or fear without uttering a word among the shinobi world. He didn't miss how proud and satisfied Inoue looked watching her son gain that invaluable respect even as everyone took their seats when the Mizukage took his own gracefully. The Tsuchikage entered a few moments later alongside his escort, which happened to be the 4- and 5-tailed Jinchuriki alongside Anoki. Not surprisingly, Mu took up his seat at the center of the table, much to the ire of the other Kages and a knowing smirk from Naruto, who didn't say anything more. Now that we are all here and settled, let's get straight to the point without wasting any time, began Mu seriously. Considering how two of their ranks had nearly came to blows earlier, the entire assembly of military leaders agreed with nods as none wanted to be here any more than necessary. I agree. What are Iwagakure's terms for surrender? Asked Naruto without a flinch, even as some of the smaller Kages did exactly that upon seeing Anoki bristle and Hiruzen to sigh. Thankfully, Mu simply narrowed his eyes at the blond man. There shall be none. Iwa's allies may have fallen due to their incompetence in defending their own countries, but our army still outnumbers every nation present in this room. Not to mention, with our allies put together, we have even additional fighters alongside 3 Jinchuriki to deal with our enemies. The only reason we agreed for this summit was in the greater interest of the shinobi world and its future now that so many lives have already been lost, answered Mu with more grace than Naruto had imagined the man to be capable of. If Kiri and Konoha continue punitive actions against your faction, we not only outnumber you in men but also Jinchuriki, warned Tobirama coldly, unwilling to let the Tsuchikage get away with making threats of any kind or making the other nations believe that he was more stronger than anyone else. The Senju clan head's son was having the same thought as he looked directly at the Tsuchikage, followed by everyone else. We don't even need to continue military conflict with you. Together our two great nations alongside our allies constitute more than 60% of the world's population and nearly 70% of the global economy. If we sanction and blockade you together, your crumbling economy will collapse completely in months. No army despite its large size can fight on empty stomachs, and even more emptier national coffers to finance their operations. You have lost, and that is the reality, Lord Mu, said Naruto frankly. Such arrogance. I would like to see this bravado when we crush you on the battlefield, warned Anoki in a fit of murderous rage. I'm sure the Reikage shared your feelings, although he was twice your size and strength when he faced me in battle, taunted Naruto, making Inoue alongside few more Kages chuckle. We are here to sue for peace, not more war, reminded Mifune of the samurai. Even as Anoki and the other Kages bickered amongst each other, Mu's gaze was fixed firmly upon the one that would play a major role in deciding the future. Naruto Namikaze was silent, and despite his favorable situation, Mu saw a shred of worry in those eyes. After several long moments of continued bickering, Mu intervened and stopped everyone before looking back at the Mizukage. What do you want? Asked Mu straightforwardly. I do not want to continue this war, for enough lives have already been lost, and we all have bigger problems to face, answered Naruto. Bigger problems? Quizzed Mu in a curious voice. The reason why I am interested in ending this war, apart from the lives already lost and the sheer destruction that has happened, is the existence of a threat that concerns us all. One that is steadily marching towards our world even as we continue fighting against each other. The Otsutsuki, explained Naruto seriously. Upon seeing that he had the attention of the entire assembly, the fourth Mizukage got up from his seat and walked towards the center of the room so that everyone could see him. Thousands of years ago, when mankind was still in its infancy and engaged in endless wars amongst themselves, they failed to notice that our world was marked by another faction. One not native to this earth, explained Naruto. Nonsense! Are we seriously listening to this? Asked Anoki in disbelief, earning a firm nod from Kakuzu. Continue, Mizukage, said Mu without a flinch. But Lord Second, began Anoki, only to receive a threatening glare from his master which made him clench his fist and regain his silence. The Otsutsuki are a race of parasites who, while having forms similar to humans somewhat in appearance, are unlike us in everything else. They are beings that harvest chakra from the worlds they mark and destroy the native populace in it forever. While mankind waged wars, 2 of the Otsutsuki arrived here to plant a divine tree, a mechanism through which they suck the very life force of our world alongside those of every living being on this planet over time to give birth to a fruit of unimaginable power which the Otsutsuki then consume to increase their power and sustain their near-immortal lifespan. However, this time their plans went awry when one of their own members from the pair which they sent to our planet got attached to humanity and this world. Her name was Kage Otsutsuki, who betrayed and killed her fellow partner, consumed the divine fruit herself, gaining unimaginable power that allowed her to end all wars between humanity in a year itself. Instantaneous peace. Mu was intrigued as he continued listening because instead of just speaking, the fourth Mizukage was using a mild genjutsu to make everyone actually see a narrated visual of the events. The man sure had a way of connecting with people. However, absolute power corrupts, and Kaguya soon turned into a tyrant, as she constantly feared her clansmen taking action against her for betraying them and choosing this world alongside humanity. Her reign turned into one of terror, where she tried to suppress anyone to death if they posed any kind of threat to her defense of this world against the Otsutsuki. She started preparing an army to face her clansmen when they eventually arrived. In time she would have 2 sons with whom she shared her chakra. But things continued to worsen until the very people Kaguya swore to protect started hating and fearing her. She became cruel beyond redemption, ultimately leading her own sons to revolt against her tyranny. Enraged, she merged with the divine tree to take the form of the 10 tails and recapture the chakra she shared with her sons. After months of brutal conflict, the sons defeated their mother and sealed her away. The elder son, whom we now know as the Sage of 6 Paths, became the Jinchuriki of the 10 tails to prevent it from destroying our world. His younger brother moved to the moon to watch over the husk of the 10 tails and the final resting place of their mother. The Sage of 6 Paths taught Nishu to humanity in the hopes of uniting us all through cooperation and the power of chakra. But he failed, and at the end of his life, he distributed the 10 tails into 9-tailed beasts to suppress its power forever. At his deathbed, from his own 2 sons, he chose the younger one to be his successor, which started a conflict between his 2 sons which transformed into the clan wars era for 3,000 years. The elder son's descendants came to be known as the Uchiha clan, whereas the younger son's descendants branched into the Senju and Uzumaki clans. Even the Kage clan and Kirigakure and Hyuga clan from Konoha are related to the sage's family through either his direct descendants or those of his brother. The clan wars era came to an end when the sage's descendants, namely the Uchiha and Senju, put aside their differences for peace, making others do the same in time. However, this only led to momentary peace until the ninja villages started fighting amongst themselves for more power. When the genjutsu ended and the visions came to an end, not one Kage was left unmoved as an eerie silence stretched across the war room. What is the proof of this story? And how does this relate to the Otsutsuki threat you said we face? Asked Anoki in a much subdued voice than before. Plenty of proof, Anoki. The first one is the Uchiha stone tablet in the possession of said clan in Konoha, where their founder has etched this story for his descendants. Even the Senju and Uzumaki clans have some version of this history with themselves, as do the Kagaya and Hyuga to an extent. More importantly, a comrade of mine actually found an Otsutsuki cave where we discovered more proof of this threat, and our history, explained Naruto patiently. Tobirama narrowed his gaze as he knew this comrade of the Mizukage was none other than Madara Uchiha, a man whom not a single Kage in this room would trust should his existence and collaboration with Naruto become known. As to how the Otsutsuki are a threat to us all now, They are here, or at least their scouts are. My comrade and I faced one of them and killed him as he tried to capture Kirigakure's Jinchuriki to get the tailed beasts inside of them," lied Naruto, omitting the fact that the scout had actually been after the ghetto statue in Madara's possession. As part of his spy training, he had been taught that a good lie always had a shred of truth as well as falsehoods mixed together to lend credence to a story. More importantly, with every Jinchuriki of the world present in this room and the Kages controlling them right here, it hit straight home as they all started looking at each other, as this was a direct threat to not only the lives of the Jinchuriki but also the military power of their nations should they be captured or killed by the Otsutsuki. "Where is the body of this Otsutsuki scout you killed, Mizukage?" asked Lord Mu calmly. Naruto nodded and looked sideways where he knew several Zetsus were hiding within the walls and capturing this entire meeting with the astral projection technique which they stole from Yuzu recently. One way or another, the rest of humanity would learn about the truths being discussed by the military leaders of the world, even if the very men and women chose not to reveal this to the public themselves. He picked up a scroll from his pouch and placed it on the ground. Many Kages tensed, but the Tsuchikage and Tobirama reassured them as a puff of smoke was unleashed. As it cleared, everyone was shocked to see a humanoid corpse appearing before them, but that was the extent of the similarity. For this pale-skinned male was nearly 8 feet tall, had blank white pupilless eyes similar somewhat to a hyuga, was quite muscular in build and had a nasty hole where his heart was supposed to be, indicating that to be the cause of death. What was a clear indicating of this corpse not being related to any human were the strange twin horns on its head. "Kami," whispered Inoue in disbelief. "Fuck," exclaimed Yosuke Meiji, the leader of the Hidden Grass Village. Even the Tsuchikage and Hokage alongside other leaders looked speechless as they stared at the strange corpse, making the Mizukage seize the moment as he clenched his fist and thumped it over his chest, bringing everyone's attention back to him. "We may have our differences and have killed each other for decades, but this threat concerns us all. This scout won't be the last as an army follows in their wake. We need to prepare together, because if the Otsutsuki get the tailed beasts, then our world is doomed. It won't matter which shinobi nation rules this world then, as we all shall die if that happens. I am willing to set aside this war and establish a peace between us all. If it means saving my wife's life, who is a Jinchuriki, along with those of the other 3 Jinchuriki standing right beside her, and the other Jinchuriki in this room. For the future of humanity, I want you to unite and fight with me," asked Naruto fiercely. "Neither our nations or our daimyos are willing to fight even more wars. It is why we are even having this peace summit," said Hanzo's salamander seriously. "The samurai do not wish to involve ourselves into the conflict of shinobi," said Mifune calmly. "You just wish to create more strife between shinobi, their daimyos, and the civilian populace. By instilling fear within us all against a fictional enemy, you are just trying to buy time to strengthen your forces and crush us all one by one," yelled Kakuzu defiantly, the leader of the Land of Waterfalls. May couldn't believe what she just heard and was even more horrified when the other Kages looked at her husband with even more bitterness in their eyes. Anoki jumped on that chance right away without hesitation. "Lord Kakuzu's right. This man here who claims to be saving humanity has mercilessly butchered 4 feudal dynasties and conquered several nations for his own power. Do not be deceived by his lies. If we allow him to lead us astray, our nations would meet the same fate sooner or later," argued Anoki passionately. "He is the enemy of the shinobi world." Kushina saw true disappointment and sadness appear on her oldest friend's face as he heard the other Kages fighting against his argument. The only ones who were even trying to defend him were Inoue, Tobirama, and Mito, but the tide was turning against him quickly as the paranoid leaders banded together. Ultimately, Lord Mu, who had been silent until now, asked a question which made everyone look at the Mizukage for an answer. "Should our daimyos or people refuse to accept this supposed threat, what then? Do you expect us shinobi to overthrow our feudal lords?" asked Mu straightforwardly. "I want humanity to be united to face this common threat to us all, no matter the cost." The Tsuchikage was quite satisfied with that answer, as he actually saw real honesty in his opponent's eyes, and it made more sense as to why the Mizukage was willing to sue for peace despite being in a condition to continue his war if willing to accept heavy losses, which he was capable of. Ultimately, Mu ended up calling it a day and the negotiations to be continued the next day in order to cool down the rising tensions while allowing the Kages to comprehend what they had just learned. May had been resting in the room which she shared with her husband. It was night time and the Mizukage had gone to check up on the remaining 3 Jinchuriki, accompanying them, leaving her alone to stare at Iwagakure through the lone window they had. She had again spotted the woman her husband had an affair with in the past, the one she had known as Koari the mercenary, who in truth had been a Spartan survivor named Kushina, loyal to Yuzu. She had spotted the woman as one of the Yuzukage's bodyguard, looking sadly at Naruto, but not doing anything more. May didn't know how to feel about that. More importantly, she had seen her mother-in-law in person. A woman supposed to be dead but brought back to life thanks to Naruto's cooperation with Madara himself. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts, and upon opening it she was left even more speechless when she saw Inoue Namikaze looking at her with a smile. "May, is it?" asked Inoue in a kind voice. "Yes," answered the auburn-haired woman hesitantly, even as she gestured the older woman to step inside. Not only was Inoue the second Mizukage but also Naruto's mother. Watching her today had made it absolutely clear to May that Naruto may have inherited his tactical brilliance in warfare and politics from Tobirama alongside some of his powers like water style, but his looks and personality alongside his infamous Hiraishin technique was something he got from this woman. "I have wanted to meet you for some time. Judging from your look, I guess my son told you the truth and what he is planning somewhat at least," said Inoue honestly. "He has acknowledged May. I wanted to thank you personally for sticking by his side despite everything that has happened. It speaks volumes about your character as a person and for making him a father and me a grandmother, even if I never got to see my grandchildren as of yet," said Inoue sincerely, the last part uttered with true regret. "My mother died long ago and I never thought our children would get the love of a grandmother until you came back. I would be glad to make you meet them sometime. As for the rest, I married Naruto and I am sticking by his side no matter what happens. That is my duty as his wife and I truly believe he wants what is best for all of humanity. There is no dishonor in following someone like that despite his past, and truth," confessed May with a smile. "If you don't mind, I would like to get to know you better," requested Inoue, making May's smile even more wider. "I would like that very much." Hiruzen Sarutobi secretly entered into an isolated room to find the second Mizukage and Anoki waiting for him as planned. The third Hokage looked quite tense even as the other two men gestured him to have a seat and offered refreshments, which he declined. "Of all the things, we hadn't expected the Mizukage to say what he had today," said Lord Mu seriously. "He's lying, Lord Second. Naruto Namikaze is a devious man," replied Anoki fiercely. "On that we can agree. Now that you guys know his full truth, do you truly want to trust such a man?" questioned Hiruzen straightforwardly. He had made a decision alongside Danzo post-secret consultations with the Fire Daimyo after their nation lost contact with Yuzushiogakure. Nobody else from Konoha, including Tobirama or Mito, were aware of this development, but judging from how disinterested Tobirama had been during the entire affair with Yuza's crew made Hiruzen seriously question his mentor's conflicted loyalty towards his son and to Konoha at the same time. Tobirama had even advocated them to stay out of that entire affair despite knowing Naruto had every reason to overthrow Hanzo Uzumaki because of their tainted past. For all his faults, Hanzo Uzumaki had been a staunch ally of Konoha, and his loss affected their nation severely. Maybe it was Tobirama's way of apologizing to his son for being unable to save Ino Namikaze's life and for Konoha's lies about her death. An admirable decision as a father, but not in the interests of their nation. That decision had consequences for everyone and was the point where Hiruzen and Danzo had to brief the Fire Daimyo about Naruto Namikaze's real truth, and how it compromised Tobirama Senju and his clan greatly. Already Naruto had destroyed 4 feudal dynasties and was posing a continued threat to the remaining daimyos including Hiruzen's own. Something which greatly worried the Fire Daimyo, who didn't want his own rule and family to meet a similar fate as that of the Water Daimyo. After what Naruto did to use his own nation for the sake of his twisted justice, Danzo had persuaded Hiruzen that a man like that was no true shinobi, and sooner or later he would harm Konoha and the Fire Nation for being unable to save his beloved wife and lying to him about her death. "You're right. A spy can never be trusted, especially one who orchestrated a coup in his own nation," agreed Anoki. "I am still interested in learning about this Otsutsuki threat," said Mu honestly. "We shall once we have dealt with Naruto Namikaze, who poses an existential threat to us all." "The Fire Daimyo wishes we deal with him together swiftly," said Hiruzen seriously. "So does the Earth Daimyo. The other daimyos won't raise any objection to that as well since Kirigakure is becoming too strong for everyone," agreed Mu calmly. "Lord Hiruzen, I don't think Tobirama Senju would be happy with these secret negotiations that you are carrying out with us once he learns of this," warned Anoki, making the Sarutobi clan head grimace but nod. "I am well aware. However, he was the one that taught me that nation comes before all, even my own teacher. More importantly, I answer to the Fire Daimyo as you do with your own. Tobirama alongside the Senju clan are too close to this matter, which is why we had to do what's necessary for Konoha's future. It is true that we have been enemies in the past, but at the very least you do not wish to destroy the shinobi world and overthrow the daimyos of the world," explained Hiruzen honestly. Mu had to agree with that, as he had clearly seen a frightening resolve in Naruto Namikaze's eyes this morning. That man would burn down the entire world in order to achieve his own dreams. Our forces have already moved in positions near to Kirigakure. Once we have dealt with the Mizukage, we shall take care of his arrogant nation should they still try to intervene, said Mu without hesitation. So have our own. We'll need a proper execution for all of it, warned Hiruzen. We will. Our men know the strategy, so do yours. Let's put an end to this guy right here, promised Anoki. Hiruzen looked at the hand being offered by the second Mizukage himself and shook it without any regrets. You left us no choice, Naruto. The fourth Mizukage had been sitting in his predecessor's room with the two men sharing a smoke while overlooking Iwagakure from their balcony. I don't trust these men, Naruto. They'll betray Kirigakure as soon as they get a chance, warned Yura as he exhaled a huge puff of smoke in the air. Are the preparations I asked you to make completed? Asked the fourth Mizukage calmly, as he too exhaled smoke in the air from his cigarette. They are. Upon hearing that confirmation, Naruto merely nodded, making Yura glance at the blonde man curiously. They're right to fear you. Your tenacity even makes me nervous sometimes, said Yura honestly. The things I do and will continue to are all for the sake of humanity, including Kirigakure. The only way to win is to fight, Yura answered Naruto without hesitation. On that we can agree, replied the third Mizukage somberly. They were both interrupted when a new person arrived in their room secretly, and looked directly at the fourth Mizukage. They are making their move, Lord Fourth. Hiruzen Sarutobi has betrayed you. Naruto clenched his fist as the white Zetsu clone made that dreaded revelation, making his worst fears come true. Madara had warned him about this, but he had naively hoped that he could rally all these nations, that humanity would truly unite when faced with an external foe that threatened its very existence. So disappointing, whispered Yura with a sigh, which was exactly what Naruto felt deep within his heart as a murderous glare arrived in his now reddened gaze. Yura didn't miss a glimpse of that dreaded monster rising within the man before him. One that had never surrendered to the darkness of the shinobi world and kept on fighting. The only one who can save humanity now is you, fourth Mizukage. White Zetsu's words made Naruto clench his fists, as a fearless determination arrived in his hardened gaze. I am sorry, I tried doing what you wanted me to, but now I must do what's necessary. Kirigakure. General Abe had just finished the council session to discuss about their hidden village's defenses with Lord Mina's Terumi, Lord Yuki, and the Umbu commander now that their legions had marched off to their borders in order to act swiftly against their enemies should things take a turn for the worst at the Kage Summit. Before the four men responsible for Kiri's defense in the absence of their Kage could leave for their respective homes, an Umbu walked into the room. Lord Mina's Terumi couldn't help but frown when he saw the man was from the Kage clan, as things had still not truly been amicable between the clans that sided with Naruto Namikaze during the Civil War, and the ninja clans like the Kage who had sided with Yugura Karatachi. Even if their members were now pardoned by the fourth Mizukage himself for their service in the campaign against Kumogakure, one couldn't help but wonder if at least some of the Kage were still secretly loyal to Yugura. Why are you here, Kimimaro? Asked the Umbu commander seriously to his subordinate. The Kage saluted all four leaders before procuring a scroll from his pouch and placed it on the table nearest to them. Lord Yugura asked me to reveal this to you in person. He said it concerns the safety of our nation and its future, said Kimimaro fearlessly, even as everyone except General Abe glared at him murderously. How dare you listen to a traitor like Yugura, an enemy of our nation? After the pardon Lord Naruto gave to your clan, is this how you repay his generosity? Asked Lord Minaze furiously, and was unnerved when he received a cold glare from the Kage clan member who remained defiant. Who do you think is the true enemy, my lords? General Abe felt a shiver run down his spine and his heart skip a beat upon hearing those ominous words. Even as Lord Minaze, Lord Yuki and the Umbu commander moved to arrest the Kage Umbu, the pale-skinned man simply pointed his finger at the scroll placed on the table, making the former feudal general move towards it. Even as Kimimaro Kage was grabbed roughly and restrained, he kept looking at General Abe, who opened the scroll and looked back at the Umbu in horror, making the man smile in satisfaction as his next words shook everything the older man had ever believed in. This is our real enemy. General Abe's hands started shaking when he spotted the face of the fourth Mizukage on an Yuzushiogakure dossier that unveiled the greatest betrayal of their nation. Next day, Tobirama and Mito were quite confused when they were informed that the Kage Summit would be resumed in the evening instead of early morning. What was even more worrying for the Senju leader and his sister-in-law was the absence of Hiruzen since yesterday post the Kage Summit. The two of them had tried meeting Naruto and Inoue. The former had declined their request while the latter had been spending time with Mai Terumi and had also declined. It had left Tobirama and Mito frustrated, but they kept their composure until they met Hiruzen again in the evening today. On being asked about his whereabouts, the third Hokage merely suggested Anoki had offered him a personal tour of their village's gardens. Before Tobirama could question his student about such a suspicious answer, Hiruzen reminded them it was time for the Kage Summit to be resumed, forcing them to quickly join him in reaching the venue on time. As soon as Tobirama entered the room alongside the other Kages, he didn't know why, but he felt something was off. There was a tension in the air that he couldn't describe, and everyone seemed on edge, which was understandable considering the events of yesterday. Naruto had truly taken a gamble by revealing the Otsutsuki threat, and only time would tell how it would turn out. Speaking of the said Kage, he arrived a few moments later, and unlike his cocky attitude yesterday, the fourth Mizukage had changed his approach and seemed quite humble as he actually met each and every Kage alongside every Jinchuriki, shaking hands with every one of them, and even going as far as to apologize to them all for the events of yesterday, which surprised nearly everyone. He even came and did the same with Tobirama and Mito. "I'm truly sorry for this mess, Lord Tobirama and Lady Mito," said Naruto sincerely, looking at Mito with a regretful gaze, and before Tobirama or Mito could say something, Anoki requested everyone to gain their seats in order to start the meeting. The fourth Mizukage complied and did what was requested, even as his supporters flanked him protectively. "We learned quite a lot yesterday. A day of revealing secrets and learning truths, I would say. Since we are on this path, I would like to reveal one little truth about our dear Mizukage who wants to save us all from the Otsutsuki." "With your permission, Lord Mu?" asked Anoki with a cunning smile, earning a nod from the second Mizukage. Tobirama and Mito both froze in horror upon hearing that, and their fears turned into reality when Anoki then turned towards Hiruzen Sarutobi himself with a cold smirk. "May we, Lord Hokage?" Inoue Namikaze alongside Commander Reika and Kushina realized what was happening when they saw Hiruzen give a grave nod, making the three kunoichi extremely tense. "Saru?" asked Tobirama in disbelief, and his heart truly sank when Hiruzen looked away guiltily. "I'm sorry, sensei. This is for Konoha's sake. The Fire Daimyo wishes for it, as do I and Danzo after what happened with Yuzushiogakure, and in the past. You and the Senju clan are too close to this man to make an objective decision for the sake of our nation," whispered Hiruzen somberly. Tobirama felt as if someone had destroyed his world in an instant, and it hurt more than anything, for it was his own students and feudal lord who had made this decision. He looked at his son in horror to find the man sitting stoically in his seat, even as Anoki did the unthinkable. "You see, our dear Mizukage here is a trained liar, a spy of Yuzushiogakure. His true name is Minato Namikaze, a former Spartan Black Ops captain that fought against Kumogakure in the First Great Ninja War. His incompetence got his comrades killed, which made him swore a vow of revenge against the great nations and every other shinobi village. He swore to eliminate the feudal system whom he considered to be responsible for these wars. He jumped at the chance to infiltrate Kirigakure, fooled everyone there to actually become Mizukage in order to complete his personal mission," explained Anoki in a cold voice, as he summoned dossiers shared by Hiruzen on every Kage's desk, including the Yuzukage herself. May's legs started shaking as her worst fears were coming true right before the entire shinobi world. This was exactly what Naruto had warned her against, but she had not listened to him and had insisted to keep his secrets, their children. Naruto Namikaze launched a brutal war and destroyed 4 feudal dynasties alongside Kumogakure, whom he hated for personal reasons, using Kirigakure as a pawn in his scheme. He even fooled Konoha to form an alliance in order to continue his ambitions. But the first Yuzukage, Hanzo Uzumaki, realized his true intentions. He tried to stop him and was overthrown and imprisoned by this man. He even replaced Hanzo Uzumaki with his own mother. "Isn't that right, Inoue Namikaze?" asked Anoki with a satisfied smile. The feeling was short-lived when he saw the woman merely giving him a cold glance, the same as her son, who had strangely remained silent. Tobirama was quite surprised when he saw no outburst from any of the other Kages upon hearing all of this. They looked furious and ready to kill, but not surprised at all. It was as if they were prepared for this and realized just where Hiruzen must have been all this time. This man wants to destroy the shinobi world and feudal system. He wants to rule this world himself. He would have continued this war if all of us had not gotten together to negotiate peace. Now he tries to gain our trust by making us believe this imaginary Otsutsuki threat, but make no mistake, he would betray us the moment he gets a chance. Just like he did with his own nation and Kage," said Anoki decisively. The second Mizukage got up from his seat when his student finished revealing the carefully crafted truth that Hiruzen had shared. Lord Mu had to admit the young brat or his comrade Danzo were quite devious. They had revealed the truth in a way which completely protected Tobirama and the Senju clan, even painted Yuzushiogakure and Kirigakure as victims of Naruto Namikaze's treachery. Mu knew the real truth, but he wanted to use it at a later time once he had destroyed Naruto and Kirigakure if they still decided to fight for their treacherous Kage. Not that he had much hope for that outcome. For now, He was more than satisfied to see the helpless look on Tobirama's face as his son was now being surrounded by all the Kages of the world, even as the Wagakure's Umbu Black Ops squads entered the room in force. For now, the Mizukage was more than satisfied to cooperate with Konoha, and later, once he had dealt with Naruto and Kirigakure, the Leaf Nation would be next. Now that he had seen the division in their ranks, it was possible to crush them in time and establish Wagakure's dominance over the shinobi world. There was still a way left for him to win this war by pitting his enemies against each other, and the greatest irony was that it was Hiruzen who gave him the means to seize this victory. "Let's unite as one, my fellow Kages, to deal with this traitor," urged Mu passionately, making every Kage except Inoue, Tobirama, Mito and Naruto to get up from their seats with determination burning in their eyes. Anoki, now leading the Umbus of his nation, pointed a finger straight towards the silent Mizukage. "We have established anti-teleportation seals across our entire village, Mizukage. You can't escape from here. Surrender peacefully, and we shall be lenient towards your people, including your wife," proposed Anoki. He was pleased when his words finally managed to make Naruto get up from his seat peacefully. May tried to move towards him but froze on receiving a harsh glare. Even Tobirama and Mito couldn't help but watch in horrifying silence as the blonde Kage walked towards Lord Mu in a subdued manner. Many younger shinobi in the room couldn't believe what they were witnessing, as it was the first time many had even seen the legendary fourth Mizukage in person. "So that's Naruto Namikaze," whispered one of the IWA Umbu curiously, even as he and his fellow comrades led by Anoki and the other Kages surrounded the Mizukage. Lord Mizukage and Anoki-sama really cornered him up today," agreed one of his comrades. "He's done for." Inoue bitterly clenched her fists as she heard what was being said, even as her eldest son now stood before the second Mizukage, who looked at him with a judgmental but satisfied gaze. Mu was however surprised when the fourth Mizukage offered his hand and actually smiled. "Well played, Lord Mu." "You too," Hiruzen said Naruto calmly, making Hiruzen grimace and Mu to reluctantly shake the offered hand as a final courtesy to a vanquished enemy. "Fourth Mizukage Naruto Namikaze, do you have any last words?" Even as Mu asked that decisive question, he couldn't help but frown when he saw Yura, the former Mizukage, smirk deviously. His eyes widened in horror when Naruto's eyes turned blood red, and the man's next words horrified every person in the room. "It's time, Madara." Chapter 54, Declaration of War. Mu and every Kage inside the room had gone deathly pale upon hearing the fourth Mizukage's words. Before they could even react, a regretful look arrived on Naruto's face as he glanced at May, Mito, Yagura, Fukai, Yujito, and every last Jinchuriki, even as Anoki finally got out of his stupor to order the IWA Umbu squads to arrest the rogue Mizukage. Yagura had a knowing bittersweet smile upon his face, unlike the other confused and shocked Jinchurikis. He merely offered a solemn nod even as the fourth Mizukage said something to them all. "I'm truly sorry, but I must do what's necessary." His murderous gaze then landed upon the advancing IWA Umbu squads and the Kages surrounding him. "Until I've destroyed every last one of these cowards." Hiruzen blanched when horrified screams were unleashed by all 9 Jinchuriki from different nations as strange markings spread across their bodies. Tobirama, however, knew exactly what was happening, as did Inoue Namikaze, who grabbed Commander Reika and Kushina swiftly before literally bursting out of the castle's walls. The other Kages didn't have that option, as some of them tried to restrain their Jinchurikis but were blasted back when every one of them unleashed Biju chakra from their body and started developing tails of that same twisted energy from their backs. Mu and Anoki's eyes widened in horror when Naruto raised his left hand holding the ram sign, making the transformed Jinchurikis roar in fury before jumping at the IWA Umbu squads to tear them apart limb from limb. The Mizukage swiftly jumped back to get some distance from the man before him, making Anoki follow his lead. So that's why he was shaking hands before the meeting start with all Kages and their escorts. In reality, he was marking their Jinchuriki who were his real target, while he had already marked the 4 Jinchuriki under his command. He was prepared for any form of betrayal of us, thought Mu bitterly. He couldn't help but curse when Naruto clenched his fist, making all Jinchurikis unleash a brutal shockwave that destroyed the upper half of the entire castle in an instant, sending the Kages, their supporters, and many of the castle's inhabitants flying in various directions like rag dolls. Anoki and Mu, however, regained their balance quite easily and started flying in the air, a unique power which none of their fellow Kages or their escorts now lying painfully over the ruins of the destroyed castle could boast about. Mu clenched his fist when he saw all 9 fully transformed Jinchuriki standing beside the 4th Mizukage defiantly. Only now, when the man had entered battle and started using his chakra truly, Mu could sense even more disturbing hidden truth. His entire arm and body are made up of Hashirama Senju cells. That is allowing him to control the Jinchurikis, thought Mu in shock. Even if they were enemies, such a power would be desired by any Kage. A ruthless smile arrived on Naruto's face once again as he looked at the Mizukage. Since we are being so hell-bent on being honest, then I'll let you in on another secret which your dear Hiruzen kept from you. It's true that I am a descendant of the Namikaze clan through my mother, but I also am an heir to another clan that's far more feared. Isn't that right, father? Asked Naruto without a flinch as he looked at a stunned Tobirama. You're Tobirama Senju's son? Nephew to Hashirama Senju himself. Don't be ridiculous. Refuted Anoki instantly. However, the rest of the Kages alongside the short man were shocked once again when Tobirama defeatedly lowered his head and just gave a solemn nod. For the first time, Mu wondered if he had stumbled into something far more dangerous. Naruto Namikaze had already been a force to be feared as a fighter and commander of armies, but to realize he was the direct descendant of one of the two legendary Senju brothers himself? This was disastrous. Unfortunately for the Mizukage, his fellow Kages were now getting back on their feet even as thousands of Iwagakure shinobi started charging towards them from the village center down the hill. Tobirama was livid upon seeing as to what was happening right before his eyes, as those closest to him had betrayed him today. Hiruzen had ruined everything and what Naruto had done to not only his own wife, followers, other Jinchuriki, but also to Mito, a woman who had welcomed him into their clan and been so kind to him. As thousands of enemy shinobi charged from Iwagakure towards their hill to defend the Kages and bring an end to the rogue Mizukage, the man who was Tobirama's son but one he could not relate to anymore merely gave a merciless glare as a strange shadow descended upon the entire land. Every person looked upwards in the sky to see Madara Uchiha himself looking down at them with his cold and merciless Rinnegan eyes. To the enemies of mankind, this is a declaration of war. A large meteor suddenly crashed right into the center of Iwagakure, destroying entire districts instantly, and erasing thousands of lives in an instant, shinobi and civilian alike. The remaining IWA shinobi survivors who had not even recovered from the shock and devastation froze in their positions when a dozen more monstrous such meteorites were also crashing down from the cloudy skies and were heading straight towards them all. Mu's worst nightmare had suddenly came to life as he saw the legendary Madara Uchiha floating in the sky above him and staring down at them all with extreme disappointment and contempt. Even as the vicious warlord had unleashed an attack that would destroy Iwagakure's very existence completely from this world. Anoki. With me now! For once his student understood the apocalypse their village faced and joined with Mu as the two flying warriors concentrated their power on one target exclusively. Particle style, atomic dismantling jutsu. Madara found himself to be actually impressed when the two IWA shinobi unleashed a blinding wave of their infamous dust release straight at him. The former Uchiha leader extended his right hand even as he stood rooted in his spot. As he was about to launch his counter, he was even further surprised when the dust release attack split at the last minute into a dozen different missiles-like structures that soared towards each of the crashing meteorites to strike clean through their middle, before again expanding into a conical form to engulf their remains completely for destruction at an atomic level that cleared the doomed skies of Iwagakure. You dance well, said Madara with an excited grin, as he looked at the Mizukage and his heavily panting student. The remaining Iwagakure shinobi roared an admirable defiance upon their Kage's counterattack, and resumed their charge towards the other wounded Kages up the hill and the bastard fourth Mizukage who had that same merciless look upon his face. In less than a few seconds, the vanguard of the Iwagakure force was blown to pieces courtesy of hidden explosives even as hundreds upon hundreds of white Zetsus emerged all around them. From the sewers, from the houses, from the very ground, they were coming from every nook and corner, which took the IWA shinobi by complete surprise as the strange creatures roared at them without any mercy. Hundreds of IWA shinobi found themselves tackled to the ground as every one of them was jumped upon by nearly 3 Zetsus as more and more continued emerging across the entire village in a never-ending tsunami. Mu, Anoki, Tobirama, Hiruzen and every other Kage watched in absolute horror as the Zetsus didn't kill their downed enemies. The monstrous creatures started eating the humans alive. Iwagakure or any shinobi nation had never witnessed a carnage as brutal as the one before their eyes as the whole village erupted with screams of its remaining defenders. They were ripped apart limb from limb, gorged upon until their tongues themselves were consumed until nothing remained of the once proud shinobi of Iwagakure. The grotesque sight made every Kage roar in absolute fury as they alongside their surviving men charged towards the man responsible for it all. Naruto unleashed Muramasa defiantly as the transformed Jinchuriki all around him roared in fury at the approaching all-Kage squad. His eyes, however, were fixated on Tobirama, who looked livid at his son for what had been done to Mito and the others. The former Hokage was the first to leap straight towards the Mizukage with his infamous sword Raijin no Ken in his hand. The blade clashed against another, and Tobirama's eyes widened when he found his former lover, Inoue, to be the defender. She kicked him back brutally, and stood as an iron wall between him and Naruto. You will not touch my son! She yelled fiercely, even as Commander Reika and Kushina joined the fray to attack the remaining men of the Kages rushing towards Naruto. Do you understand what you are doing, Inoue? Asked Tobirama in horror, as he looked at the carnage happening all around them. This is Yuzu's chance to renounce this man. Are you islanders willing to make the entire world your enemy just for him? Asked Hiruzen in disbelief. Your betrayal itself is a proof that sooner or later you will destroy our nation for your own interests. It has always been the same and was the reason why I never came to you, Tobirama, despite giving birth to our son. Most importantly, Naruto has been more loyal to our nation than any of you ever have. The Uzumaki clan has finally understood that now, with the truth of the past being fully revealed to them by us. Said Inoue fiercely, we abandoned him once, but not again. He's one of us, and we will stand with him, even if it means fighting all of you. Promised Commander Reika without hesitation. We will not wait for our deaths upon our island at the hands of scum like you, Hokage. Yelled Kushina angrily, as she plunged her sword clean through one of the Takage's guards. Unable to get through to the women of Yuzu, the former Hokage looked at the only man who could probably end this madness. I know what has happened here today is wrong. But is this the only way? Is this the freedom and justice that you desired? To be able to hurt Mito, your own wife, and all the innocents dying right now? It makes you the same as the rest of these Kages? Asked Tobirama desperately to his own son, as he pointed at the transformed Jinchurikis and the carnage happening downhill. The Senju leader was further alarmed when all 9 Jinchurikis simply teleported away before his very eyes, courtesy of Naruto making a hand sign. The former Hokage looked at the crumbling village of Iwa and realized the Zetsu forces had destroyed the anti-teleportation seals placed by the Tsuchikage and Onoki. He looked murderously at Madara flying high in the sky, who was the reason for this destruction. Son! Don't let yourself be controlled or manipulated by scum like Madara. You're better than this, pleaded Tobirama sincerely. This time Naruto did look straight into his eyes, and the sheer ruthlessness in that gaze troubled the former Hokage deeply. I tried, father. I truly wanted things to not end up this way, but now that they have, there can be no turning back. From here on out, all that happens shall be of my own free will, answered Naruto honestly. Work with me and we can try to find a solution together, requested Tobirama sincerely. A flicker of hope remained in the former Hokage's heart when he saw those words piercing through his son's heart and made him lower his gaze. You play the bad guy next. Tobirama got his answer when Naruto disappeared instantly, and if not for the Senju leader's sensory powers, he would have not realized just where exactly the Mizukage had gone. Saru! Hiruzen had coughed violently by the time he had heard the frantic scream of his mentor, courtesy of Muramasa, now stabbed clean through his heart from behind. Looking back, he saw the 4th Mizukage holding that cursed weapon as it started consuming Hiruzen from the inside. Damn you for forcing me into this position, whispered Naruto bitterly. How? Asked the mortally wounded Hokage. A Hiroshin marking never disappears, and I had given you one the very first time we met, when you told me about Ino's death, answered Naruto. Hiruzen remembered how violently Naruto had reacted to the deception, and had grabbed him by his throat then. That explained. Die knowing that your short-sightedness shall lead to more unnecessary deaths, cursed Naruto viciously. Inoue had again blocked Tobirama, making the helpless former Hokage just watch as his prized student was ripped in half as Naruto's murderous gaze then moved towards the remaining Kages that paled in horror. He was upon the Takakajisuki Meiji, cutting through his last remaining bodyguard with ease and beheading the man mercilessly. Let's dance together, said Madara with a murderous grin. Mu had the horror of watching the very destruction of his village, shinobi, and now the deaths of 2 allied Kages right before his eyes, even as the surviving Kages tried to flee from the wrath of the Mizukage and his supporters. He suddenly felt a powerful force pulling him upwards in the sky and straight towards Madara himself. In desperation, he fired dust-release attacks at the Uchiha, only to have the man simply absorb them as if they were nothing. The Tsuchikage still didn't give up and launched every weapon at his disposal, be they kunai or shuriken or explosives, only to have every one of them repulsed by Madara and thrown back at a Wagakure shinobi, leading to more deaths of Mu's men. Shinra Tensei, Mu was slammed by an invisible gravitational force that sent him crashing hundreds of feet below on the ground, breaking dozens of bones in his body painfully. If that wasn't enough, he again found himself lifted in the air only to be slammed back to the ground and bear the same agony repeatedly by Madara. Watching their Tsuchikage be treated like a punching bag broke the resolve of his remaining countrymen, desperately trying to survive from getting eaten alive by the Zetsu monsters. Onoki screamed in absolute rage and flew towards the Uchiha currently butchering Mu, only to get tossed aside like a fly by that same mysterious power of Madara that went on to torture the second Tsuchikage over and over again. Tobirama, The blood-curdling scream echoed by Mu finally shocked Tobirama out of his disbelief as he looked at the dying Kage, even as Inoue continued to push him back but strangely didn't launch any mortal attacks. "Get out of here, save as many as you can," begged Mu painfully. Tobirama had little love for a Wagakure, but even he could see its doomed fate in the face of such overwhelming power. These monsters were definitely Madara's henchmen, but this unforeseen counterattack that crippled them all instantly could have only been made by one man. He looked at his son. No, he was too far gone to be considered as such. Now he was a ruthless enemy that had murdered 2 Kages and devised a dastardly attack like this. Being the only one who actually knew what endgame Naruto and Madara had planned made it imperative for him to counter them. This battle was already lost. Even the dying Second Mizukage could see that. But the war and the future of the great as well as smaller nations, the entire shinobi world rested upon its remaining military leadership actually surviving this catastrophe. With Hiruzen gone, Mito captured alongside every other Jinchuriki, and Naruto rushing to slaughter the remaining Kages, it left Tobirama with a quick decision to make. Inoue blinked in surprise when the earlier hesitation and regret disappeared from Tobirama's eyes to be replaced by the ice-cold gaze of the warrior she knew. He punched her gut, and used her momentary gasp to teleport away from her to appear right above Naruto's head. The Mizukage, being a censor himself, dodged the slash from the holy sword only to grimace when he saw Tobirama throwing ninja wire from his pouch to wrap around the fleeing Kages before making them teleport away to whatever safety he could offer from this doomed village. He then rushed in to actually rescue Mu even as Naruto and Inoue alongside their supporters chased after him. It was ultimately the Mizukage who shook his head even as he was pulled upwards by Madara towards himself in the skies. Save the third Mizukage. Tobirama looked at the unconscious form of Anoki in a nearby alley upon Mu's direction and instinctively rushed to his side. The second Mitsukage's dying wish was fulfilled as his student was picked up by the former Hokage before both men were teleported away to safety, much to the frustration of Naruto, who clenched his fist bitterly. Mu defiantly looked into Madara's frustrated gaze as the Uchiha held him brutally by his throat even as the village of Awagakure alongside its residents and defenders made their doomed final stand. "You may kill us all today, but the soul of this nation can never be broken," said Mu bravely, earning a cold and unimpressed glare from Madara. "Then I'll take your soul instead, Mizukage." Mu's eyes widened in horror, but he didn't feel anything a moment later and slumped lifelessly in Madara's grasp. But his people did see their Kage's soul being sucked right out of his body and simply consumed by the godly Uchiha. That was the final straw for many as they simply threw down their weapons to surrender, as Madara landed upon the ground to stand beside Naruto. "You failed in killing all the Kages and their henchmen," commented Madara flatly. "Still did better than you," answered Naruto coldly, making Madara chuckle a bit. Hiruzen was just a brat, and nobody even knew who the fuck was the other idiot who claimed himself as Takakage. "I actually killed a grown-ass man like Mu," retorted Madara. He could see Naruto was not in a good mood when he simply walked away, but his merciless last words made Madara understand the fourth Mizukage was fully committed to the cause. "Put these people out of their misery. We don't have the resources or time to take prisoners, nor will it convey the message." Inoue was confused by her son's words and looked at the Uchiha hesitantly. "Isn't killing the Kages the message?" she asked, as Madara started flying back in the air and gave a signal which made the Zetsus attacking the Awagakure defenders simply run back into the ground in all haste. "That's not the message. This is." From atop the hill where the ruined castle stood, Inoue sensed Madara gather a huge amount of chakra even as Commander Reika Uzumaki and Kushina quickly arrived by her side. Right before the second Mizukage's eyes, the village of Awagakure was destroyed in an instant alongside every living soul within it, courtesy of a massive shockwave that left nothing but a giant crater where once stood one of the most powerful military strongholds of the world. Kirigakure. Next day, General Abe stood alone at the top of the Mizukage's tower to glance at the vast village around him in all its glory. Thinking about its history to where it was now made the veteran officer truly understand the enormity of what this nation had undergone ever since it came into existence. The first Mizukage Byakuren had been nearly the same age as Abe when he took office in the final days of the Clan Wars era. Unlike the ninja clans like the Kagaya, Hozuki or Hagoromo, who were still busy fighting amongst themselves, Byakuren hailed from a respected but not well-known ninja family. His power was admirable, but it was his act of pledging loyalty to the Water Daimyo that made him the first Mizukage. With the might of the feudal armies at his back and a predictable strategy of brute force or bribery, he managed to unite the ninja clans, the Hozuki clan becoming his strongest ally, making him chose its clan head Genjutsu Hozuki as his successor. When the first great ninja war broke out, He eagerly ordered their shinobi and feudal warriors to participate in order to gain glory, territory, and resources for their nation, only to achieve catastrophic defeats with huge loss of men, resources, and the near destruction of their nation's economy. He tried his best to hold their military together, even if it meant continuing barbaric and senseless customs like the bloodbath ceremony while choosing the 7 ninja swordsmen and slavery practiced by some of the ninja clans. He was not favored by the water daimyos, who had been disappointed with the performance of a costly hidden shinobi village which had so far not delivered much returns. To prove them wrong, Genjutsu Hozuki launched a bizarre campaign against the Wagakure that again led to a monumental defeat, and even the deaths of many of the 7 ninja swordsmen. To his credit, the man learned from his mistakes and started taking sound advice from his supporters, including one of the men who would succeed him in the future. During the last days of his reign, he ordered key military reforms, resisted the domination of ninja clans, and even gained the courage to oppose some of the barbaric practices of their own daimyo towards his fellow citizens of the Land of Water. It gained him a brutal death after severe torture and a bloody civil war, but sealed his legacy as a brave man in the eyes of the people. The third Mizukage Yura Karatachi had achieved power through mutiny in order to protect the privileges and rule of the ninja clans whom he was a part of. He had sided with the daimyos who wanted to protect their own dominance against Genjutsu's rising assertiveness and influence due to Kirigakure's victories in the Second Great Ninja War. His rule, however brief, was one of terror and brutality, where he tried to solidify his dominance through brute force against his own people, considering he had dethroned and played a part in his predecessor's execution. Unlike the earlier Mizukages who had actually tried to do something for the good of their nation, Yugura would be regarded as a selfish and wretched man that nearly destroyed his own country. Ultimately he was defeated. The dominance of the more brutal ninja clans was shattered completely, as they were all made special examples of by the new leader of their nation. The fourth Mizukage, Naruto Namikaze, was very different from his predecessors. He was a man who hated the barbaric traditions and dominance of the ninja clans and water daimyo, which he believed was a hindrance to the progress of this nation, a thought shared by his mentor Genjutsu Hozuki. He was even repulsed by the disorganization among Kirigakure's military and the dismal state of their economy and infighting. He destroyed the daimyo's rulership and executed the man alongside his entire family, thereby ending his line forever. He made an example of the Karatachi clan by executing them all in order to teach the other revolting ninja clans a lesson, and made his predecessor Yugura a pawn in all sense. He also had the blood of innocent civilians on his hand during Kirigakure's ongoing participation in the Second Great Ninja War's early days. Yet for his all brutality, the man achieved far more than any Mizukage ever had. He abolished slavery practiced by the ninja clans of Kirigakure, reduced the exorbitant taxes on the common citizens by the water daimyo, and gave them basic human rights that their previous rulers had denied them. Right to education, right to healthcare, right to justice, right against discrimination, right to live a decent life. In honesty, the credit for these historic reforms should be given to the man's wife May Terumi, who had played a pivotal role in bringing these changes through the shadows. She reformed the economy and improved the living standards of citizens, something which the people still remembered and thanked her for. Her husband, on the other hand, reformed the military completely. Naruto Namikaze's campaign of conquest was something nearly everyone, be they shinobi or civilian or even samurai, knew about today across the entire world, the most notable being his victory over the Land of Lightning. He was the only Kage in modern history to have never lost a single military battle, and the most powerful shinobi of their nation, whose presence alone on the battlefield was worth thousands of shinobi, and a sight that made the most determined enemy tremble. He was the first figure in this nation's and maybe even the modern ninja world's history to combine total political power with frontline military genius. How was General Abe supposed to turn against a man like that? To think that the greatest hero of his nation was also the greatest traitor in truth made him clench his fist bitterly. Have you decided on what's to be done, General? Abe turned around to see the Umbu commander walking towards him, even as his voice sounded extremely somber. How are Lord Minace Terumi and Lord Yuki taking this revelation? Asked Abe seriously. Outright denial and conspiracy being committed by our enemies against our Mizukage. I don't blame them, considering for Lord Terumi not only the man is his son-in-law but also the one who made their clan so prominent. Same goes for Lord Yuki as well, to an extent. They will not side against him so easily, answered the Umbu commander. And what about you, Commander? Asked the general honestly, making the man clench his fist. Naruto was a Kirigakure Umbu first before he became one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, and our Kage later. He served under my command and is the most gifted commander I have ever seen. The Black Ops see him as one of their own. They will not abandon him easily, even if it's me telling the bitter truth, said the Umbu leader without hesitation. Apart from wondering about the authenticity of Yugura's source, I also question the timing of this revelation. Yuzu and Konoha will simply deny and blame us for believing in absurd lies if we confront them on this. We risk escalating conflict with them when we are already at war with a rogue power like Iwagakure, said Abe worriedly. Allies that plant spy within our ranks can't be trusted, warned the Umbu commander. We have done the same many times in the past. Don't deny that, Commander. The Umbu commander sighed tiredly at that sharp but honest remark. He then saw a truly sorrowful look arrive on the older general's face, who had fought for the land of water for decades under the water daimyo first, and now under the Mizukage's flag. What does it say about us as a nation and people that it ultimately took an outsider to unite us and bring this nation to the peak of its glory? Our citizens truly have hope for a better future, something which a damned spy gave them in reality. We were regarded as a backwater shithole by other nations. Now, none can dare ignore our presence or interests. For the first time in my own life, I was proud to follow a leader in whom I truly believed with all my heart, said Abe sorrowfully. Naruto Namikaze, or Minato Namikaze, which is his birth name, is a truly extraordinary leader. He brought us to glory despite being a spy. Our nation is finally free of internal strife, and we see every one of us as one people, even those nations that we conquered. The right course of action is to execute a spy, but, in this case, it may very well destroy everything we fought, and our dead comrades sacrificed their lives for, lamented the Umbu commander. I have to destroy someone truly great. The Umbu commander watched absolute regret present on General Abe's face for a very long moment before the older man steeled himself, and looked back at him resolutely. Take his children into protective custody. Our absolute loyalty should always be towards the nation, our people and their future, and not towards one man. I made that mistake with the water daimyo in the past, not anymore. Besides, we will need every advantage we can get to deal with Naruto, instructed Abe seriously. And should the Terumi clan resist alongside any others? Asked the Umbu commander with concern present in his troubled voice. Do what you have to, Commander. I shall inform our legions and the 7 ninja swordsmen about this truth before we are dragged into another conflict that we want no part of. We need strong allies by our side and a priceless bargaining chip. There is no doubt that none can match Naruto Namikaze's brilliance on the battlefield, but he's politically naive as compared to other world leaders in part due to his young age and idealistic nature, advised General Abe, making the Umbu commander solemnly nod before marching off to carry out his orders. Only when the man was gone did General Abe slam his clenched fist at the nearest railing in frustration and the position he found himself placed in. He was betraying a man who had spared his life, even using his children against him. But he also remembered Naruto's last words to him during their last meeting. General, should I fall or anything unfortunate happen at the Kage Summit, I am entrusting you with Kirigakure's future. Keep our people safe until things stabilize and do what's right no matter the cost. Abe didn't know why, but he had a feeling that perhaps Naruto had foreseen these state of affairs. A few hours later, the veteran general's fears came true when he received urgent communique from Konoha detailing as to what had happened at the Kage Summit. Naruto's truth exposed on a global stage, of him launching an attack alongside Madara, Uchiha of all people, and Yuzu on every Kage, making an enemy of the entire shinobi world. Iwagakure being brutally wiped off the map, and every Jinchuriki including Lady May and Yura captured as well by Naruto. An allied shinobi army was now forming under the leadership of a reinstated second Hokage Tobirama Senju and the third Tsuchikajanoki alongside every nation in the world except Yuzushiogakure, which was marked for annihilation for its role in Naruto's deception, and not surprisingly the smaller village had thrown its might behind him for this doomed struggle. Abe's suspicions were even more strengthened when he found the 4th Mizukage had not teleported any of Kiri's legions led by his trusted 7 ninja swordsmen to Iwagakure when he was betrayed and exposed there as per the original contingency plan that he had told to his men. Instead, they remained oblivious, their hands clean from this entire mess. Now the new allied shinobi army was asking Kirigakure as to where it stood. I promise you this as the 4th Mizukage. I will never stop fighting for the future and interests of this nation, be they in the Kage Summit or the battlefield. General Abe fell to his knees in the Mizukage's office as he remembered Naruto's final promise to their army before he left. The deep and sincere meaning behind those words was never more clearer for the older man. The entire world saw Kirigakure as a victim of Naruto like themselves instead of being his allies, a man who betrayed the said nation by kidnapping its Jinchuriki including his own wife. That despicable act alone would make even the Terumi clan and his staunchest allies desert him. But the 4th Mizukage must have known that already. A spy who had remained right under their nose all these years actually exposed his truth with his own hands at a decisive moment through Yura and his disgraced allies, with there being only one reason left for Abe to make sense of these chain of events. To save Kirigakure, you became a devil, Lord 4th. Heavy tears fell from General Abe's eyes as he realized what that spy had done for them. It was one thing to die heroically in the line of duty for one's country, but to go so far for a nation that was not even his motherland. The Butcher of Iwa, the enemy of world peace, the demon. As he read the various damning titles the world was bestowing upon the disgraced Mizukage, General Abe was truly humbled by Naruto Namake's courage to face the hatred of the entire shinobi world and his selfless sacrifice of giving Kirigakure a chance to save itself from his doomed path. The shinobi world had now declared total war on Naruto Namake's and Madara Uchiha alongside their ally Yuzushiogakure. Already the shinobi armies from various nations were gathering to crush them, with Kirigakure being strongly advised to join or be considered a fellow conspirator and threat to the shinobi world's future. Naruto's situation was doomed if one looked at the grander picture, but General Abe had seen the power of Madara Uchiha in the past. The tale of Yuzushigakure's limited but effective military might, especially their legendary Spartans, whom if intel reports were to be believed were actually alive and on the move themselves to the aid of their former captain. Most of all, General Abe was extremely reluctant to make Kirigakure join the allied shinobi army to save its future. They had the largest military force ever seen in shinobi history even without Kirigakure's support, under the leadership of a sound leader like Tobirama and thousands upon thousands of war veterans from many nations. But Abe had also served under the 4th Mizukage's command. He hoped the allied shinobi army understood the strength of their enemy, for in this last campaign being fought for the entire world's future, they would be facing the true masters of war in the form of Naruto Namake's and Madara Uchiha. God help us all. Chapter 55, Truth, Mountain's Graveyard. May gingerly opened her eyes and was frightened when she saw only darkness. Taking a deep breath, she calmed herself and tried several more times until she succeeded in gaining actual visual of her surroundings. She was in a gigantic but dark cave with the bare minimum light, and was hanging several feet above the ground. Pain surged through her arms as she realized chakra chains were holding her limbs, and looking behind to the source of these bindings, she was truly horrified to see a monstrous statue larger than any tailed beast. It was a demonic statue in the form of a humanoid entity with a mummified appearance with spike-like protrusions on its back. A cold chill ran through her entire body when she found it was already in the process of sucking tailed beast energy from Yujito and the two tails Jinchuriki. The woman's eyes were blank, her mouth open in a horrified expression, even as a lifeless Bunpuku, the one tails Jinchuriki, lay suspended a few feet away from her in the air. They were extracting tailed beasts from their hosts and sealing them into that monster, with the one tails already extracted. In the center of the cave, she found a dark inhuman creature alongside dozens of his fellow monsters carrying out the ritual with absolute devotion and focus. Memories came back to her from the disastrous Kage Summit as she remembered Naruto's chakra surging through her body and restraining her control and free will like in the past before the Battle of Osaka, as the 6 tails within her took control. Instead of breaking free from her body, it helped Naruto in battle just as every other tailed beast did the same with their hosts through the Mizukage's help. She remembered Naruto's conversation with her and Saiken back in Kirigakure before the Kage Summit, where he revealed what he and Madara truly wanted to do, for which they had sought cooperation from all tailed beasts in exchange for their freedom. "You managed to convince your brethren, Saiken," she whispered to the 6 tails. "For what little it's worth, I am sorry, May." All of us tailed beasts saw how short-sighted world leaders truly were at the Kage Summit, even in the face of the Otsutsuki threat. Such men could never save humanity, much less end the suffering of us tailed beasts, confessed Saiken with a heavy heart. "So you all joined Madara?" asked May with a sigh. "We joined Naruto. None of us trust Madara, especially the 9 tails. The 2 tails doesn't trust Naruto due to their muddled history, but has confidence in the faith the rest of us tailed beasts have in him. In a world full of lies and treachery, he is the only one willing to walk into hell to save everyone, man or tailed beasts alike. If those 2 men can forcefully make humanity cease its wars, then we tailed beasts would not be used in such conflicts again and again," explained Saiken honestly. "And that peace would be at the price of 9 Jinchurikis and thousands of more lives." Saiken was silenced by May's cold but truthful statement as they glanced at the corpse of Bunpuku and watched the life draining out of Yujito slowly. "I'm sorry, May." The Terumi clan heir didn't say anything and looked at the remaining Jinchuriki. Most were unconscious except for Yagura and Mito, both of whom were looking at her right now. A bitter expression came upon her face as she looked at the former Mizukage when he just gave her a smile. "The hell you smiling at, traitor?" asked May angrily. "I revealed the truth of your husband back in Kirigakure through my few remaining allies during the Kage Summit time period. I wonder if the generals and commanders back home are doing the same to the Terumi clan and your children as your husband did with my clan?" retorted Yagura, satisfaction evident on his face. May felt as if her world was completely destroyed by that revelation, as she instantly feared for the safety of her children, her father, and the rest of her clan, as they would be the prime targets for the leadership back home to take hostage or execute for being associated directly with a spy, even be considered as traitors. But how could Yura have known the truth? The man must have sensed her unsaid question as he explained with that same sickening smile. Naruto asked me to. Gave me the proof for his own destruction to reveal to our people in order to allow them a chance to distance themselves from this madness if his truth was exposed by his enemies. Despite being a spy, he acted like a true Kage, willing to bear the burden for his nation and people. I hate him for what he did to my family and hope you suffer the same fate, but I will admit he's the finest Kage our nation has ever seen. For that I joined him, even agreed to die like this, knowing I will take his legacy with me and give our people a chance to save themselves from Naruto's doomed fate, confessed Yura. He will never allow our children to be harmed, said May fiercely, earning a nod from Yura. Maybe you're right. Perhaps they would have already been extracted to safe location by his allies by now, but the same can't be said for the Tobirama clan, is it? Countered Yura, making May lower her gaze in sadness and the former Mizukage to laugh half-heartedly. This is the end, May. You can never hope for a happy ending in this twisted shinobi world, but Naruto is trying to break this curse. He can see hope beyond this hell and will keep moving forward until he has destroyed 3,000 years of blood-stained history. We just won't be there to see it, whispered Yura sadly. Mito had been silently listening to the conversation even as she contemplated their history and all that happened which led to this. She remembered losing her family in the Clan Wars era, same as her husband Hashirama. They created the modern shinobi world to stop that violence and prevent children from dying as tools of war. Sadly, it only led to more wars which consumed the life of her husband, her children, and even her grandson Iwaki. With her only grandchild Tsunade left with her, she had high hopes for creating a lasting peace at the Kage Summit, only for that hope to be destroyed by Hiruzen himself at the orders of the Fire Daimyo. We must keep the children out of this cycle if we are to prevent it from happening again, she whispered. Mito looked up when she felt Yura and May looking back at her, which made a few tears to fall from her eyes. It is the responsibility of us adults to bear the sins and hatred of the past, to not pass on the same to our children. I can never agree to Naruto's methods, but I understand why he is doing this. He is no devil or hero, just a man trying to protect his children alongside every human being by bearing that burden. Our solution for peace failed. Maybe his solution will succeed, which is all I can hope for, at least for the sake of my granddaughter Tsunade, confessed Mito somberly. Black Zetsu had been listening to the conversation even as he continued the ritual of sealing the two tails alongside several dozen white Zetsus. To say he was surprised by what was being said would be an understatement. Perhaps Naruto had been right. Humanity was still worth saving. Kushina and Inoue Namikaze waked up towards the nearest mountain to their hideout and found Naruto standing there. Upon seeing their approach, he clenched his fist and the anger on his face was clearly visible. And they both knew why, even as his next words expressed that. Why did you get Yuzu involved in this mess? He asked furiously. Before they could answer, he was forced to look towards the skies where he sensed familiar signatures, and his heart sank further when he saw his entire Spartan unit descending towards them, led by Nagato himself. The very people he wanted to protect had willingly marched into hell for him. A part of his heart was humbled, but another, more rational one, couldn't help but despair knowing what was coming for them all. He turned towards his mother, who had a sympathetic look on her face as she understood exactly what he was feeling. It was not just me, Kushina, or the Spartans, but the whole village who considers you as one of our own. Hanzo Uzumaki made a dangerous decision when he sent you to Kiri as a spy, and made it even worse by not stopping your rise to the position of Mizukage, by not thinking how disastrous it would be for our village if you were exposed. Most of our forces will remain on the island except for the Spartans. The tactical bombs made of Biju Chakra that you gave us should help us thwart any major incursions, which I don't think will happen anytime soon unless Kirigakure's navy attacks us in force. Ensuring you win the war is the only way for Yuzu to survive. More importantly, every one of us owe their lives to you. This was our choice, and you have to accept that, explained Inoue patiently. Spartans look after their own, brother, said Nagato with a kind smile. You don't understand. We cannot win this. It's a suicide mission, replied Naruto in despair, only for his friends to laugh knowingly. We were made for those, Captain. Have you forgotten? Said Hade confidently. We only need to hold the line against the enemy army for you to execute the plan. Once that happens, the fighting will end and we can all go home together, promised Kushina with a friendly smile. Don't tell me you have become soft, Captain. We kicked ass before and we will do it again, said Kasumi fiercely. Lowered forth. Naruto turned towards his right when he found Commander Reika walking towards them all, and in her hands was a rather large scroll which, upon being unsealed by the woman moments later, left him intrigued. for in front of him was an armor unlike anything he had ever seen before in his life. Even from his position, he could feel the sheer amount of energy at its core, and judging from its sinister nature. "Reika, is that?" he asked hesitantly, unable to believe at what the Uzumaki clan had engineered. This had been in the works ever since the fall of our Spartans in the first great ninja war. We had perfected the technology over time to avoid such casualties, but simply lacked the power source to sustain it. With the Biju chakra that you shared with us, our engineers harnessed portions of its power to bring this chakra armor to life, explained Commander Reika in detail. She then helped the Mizukage in donning the same, even as his fellow Spartans followed suit with their own armor that they had brought from their island nation. By the time Reika finished her job alongside the other Spartans, Inoue Namikaze had an extremely pleased smile upon her lips. The second Mizukage had been briefed of the genetic augmentations the Spartans had gone through as part of their development. It had horrified her beyond belief when she truly understood what these children and her sons had endured, but the advantages were also equally worthy. It had transformed children barely between the ages of 8 to 13 into killing machines. Their bones had been made nearly unbreakable, their reflexes 3 times faster than average shinobi, their body and skeleton structure had undergone rapid advancement, giving them larger height than their age befitted. Their muscles had been strengthened, and their chakra capacity nearly twice that of average shinobi. Now, as she watched them don the chakra armor made specifically to enhance their superhuman strength even further, she accepted as to why the other nations always feared the resourcefulness of the Uzumaki clan. For in front of her stood a small army of super soldiers more than 6 feet tall. They were all wearing pitch black armor whose outer shell was made of titanium alloy, a rare earth available in good quantity upon their island. She also felt a strange sense of energy surrounding all the Spartans, and to check her hypothesis, she fired an electric bolt towards Naruto only for it to harmlessly dissipate against the armor's chakra shield. Inoue used few of her genjutsu techniques, but none affected any of the Spartans, who stared at her blankly. "This chakra armor cost us a fortune enough to build a small army, but it's the strongest work of engineering our clan has ever done in its history. It allows every Spartan to withstand all forms of temperature. The Biju chakra which powers it enables you to have shields which deflect all forms of ninjutsu or genjutsu for a certain period. However, if the onslaught becomes too severe, they will collapse and need a few seconds to be recharged. With your augmentations, you are the only one at present who are capable enough of wielding this armor without any further surgery like our other shinobi. Normal weapons or explosives even will not make a dent against the titanium alloy. In the event an attack does wound you, the injury will be automatically sealed by the armor and medical chakra will be administered to heal it. The helmet gives you a 360-degree vision and the ability to communicate with every Spartan wearing it at any distance through the astral projection technique mastered by our clan. It also has enough slots to make you carry ammunition and essentials for 2 weeks' worth of battle. As long as the core holding the Biju chakra is not damaged or destroyed, it virtually gives you the ability to keep on fighting endlessly, as the armor is designed to replenish your chakra a few times, explained Reika in detail. The second Mizukage found herself feeling envious when her sons and their fellow Spartans decided to put their new technology to test. Enacting Capture the Hill exercise from their training days, the Spartans charged up a nearby mountain on foot, only this time their speed was twice as fast as before. Inoue used Earth style to throw gigantic boulders down upon them, only for the Uzumaki warriors to smash clean through them all with brute force of their chakra armor. The Mizukage rained down lightning from the skies upon the charging Spartans, only for their armor's shields to kick in and protect them easily. They all were quite surprised when Madara himself descended from the skies and stood at the top of the mountain the Spartans were hoping to conquer. Fire style, majestic destroyer flame. A gigantic tsunami of flames descended down upon the charging Spartans, worrying their Kage, but eliciting an extremely pleased smile from Madara when the Uzumaki veterans survived the onslaught without a scratch and continued advancing towards Madara. Shinra Tensei. Upon sensing the incoming attack, the Spartans adopted a phalanx formation, channeling maximum chakra from the armor and their own bodies towards their shields. They flared wildly when the gravitational force hit them head-on. You Uzumaki truly are something else. To think they actually withstood my Shinra Tensei, said Madara with genuine respect. He went on to use every genjutsu in his arsenal, including one of his Mangekyo Sharingan, but just as promised, the chakra armor and its helmet protected its wearers. Wings emerged from the back of the armor as the Spartans took to aerial charge, and if not for his Sharingan, Madara would have not been able to see their rapid advance as they emerged on the mountain top. Yet even as he was forced to give way, he saw a true smile present upon Naruto's lips for the first time ever since what happened at the Kage Summit as the Mizukage removed his helmet. Inoue and Commander Reika watched Madara appear by their side and look at the Spartans hollering and rejoicing at their new upgrades. With an army like that, there is no victory impossible for us. Be it the shinobi world or the Otsutsuki, praised Madara with a wide smile. You think training, augmentation, and their armor makes them unbeatable? For all of that, they are still children bred for war by adults like us. It's the bond among the Spartans that make them a force to be feared, said Inoue honestly. I think that's the only thing Naruto's truly afraid of. Losing any of them again, they are his true family. For when the entire world turned against him, the Spartans were the ones who vouched everyone in our clan to stand by him. They were the first to join him in this suicidal mission, just like he never gave up on saving them when the entire world, including our own nation, forgot about them. They are his friends, his siblings, all 124 of them, suggested Reika with a sympathetic smile. Madara saw with his own eyes the bond that Commander Reika and Inoue Namikaze talked about when he looked at the Spartans. It only went on to remind him of his own lost friends, cousins and brothers, Izuna in particular. I understand. More than you can imagine, he whispered with a heavy heart. As he briefly reminisced about the happy days of his own past, Madara didn't pay much attention until Naruto was standing before him moments later with the Spartans by his side. I have my family behind me now. I'll need to get my army, he declared resolutely. You changed your mind? Asked Madara in surprise, earning a sigh from the Mizukage. I don't want to end up killing my own men in the event they are forced to end up on the battlefield alongside other nations, or if they are coerced into attacking Yuzu, which I will defend no matter the cost, explained Naruto sincerely. They'll kill you the moment they see you. What is there left to say? Asked Inoue worriedly, but surprisingly her son disagreed. I will always be Minato Namikaze for all of you here. But for better or worse, I am also Naruto Namikaze, the fourth Mizukage of Kirigakure. I made that nation and its army with my own hands. At the very least I owe them the truth from my own mouth. To give them a chance to stand by my side or at least stay neutral. I am not doing this just for my own wish. If Kirigakure sides with the allied shinobi army, our defeat is inevitable and Yuzu will be destroyed, answered Naruto honestly. Don't you think you are overestimating them? Asked Madara curiously, only for Naruto to smile ruefully. I trained that army and led it personally for years. This is the same army that crushed a military powerhouse like Kumogakure, which even us Spartans could not do for all our might. That army conquered nations and was never once defeated in battle. It has the most powerful navy in the world, which is the greatest threat to Yuzu's existence. The 7 ninja swordsmen, my generals, are capable officers unlike the many arrogant fools in the allied shinobi army, explained the Mizukage frankly. Silence engulfed everyone as they understood the consequences of facing the Kirigakure army as their enemy. More than anyone else, they were the greatest threat to Yuzu Shiogakure's survival and the fate of this war. Very well. Do what you have to. Need anything from my end? Back up? Questioned Madara. We'll go with our captain. Should the men of Kiri dishonor their Kage, we'll ensure they pay for such mistake, promised Nagato, his tone leaving no room for negotiation as the entire Spartan force backed him. To their surprise, Naruto didn't protest and just nodded before looking back at Madara as the Uchiha asked him an honest question. How will you convince them? Have you forgotten why you chose me to lead your army in this war? Countered Naruto. Madara couldn't help but smirk as he understood what his comrade was about to do. Land of lightning borders near land of fire. You were right, Zabuza. For once in his life, Zabuza hated to be proven right as he heard those words from Yuri and saw the disbelief and despair on the faces of the rest of the 7 ninja swordsmen assembled in the command tent. He could only imagine how the rest of their army now assembled together was feeling now that the disastrous news had arrived from General Abe as to what had happened at the Kage Summit. This has to be a lie, said Jinpachi hesitantly. Then why did his clones disappear? They were supposed to teleport our armies to Iwagakure if things went south, answered Zabuza calmly. What do we do? Asked Haku worriedly. The allied shinobi army has given us an ultimatum to join their ranks or face grave consequences once they have dealt with Lord 4- Naruto Namikaze, said Kisame seriously. They all looked at Mangetsu, who was sitting in the corner with his fists clenched tightly. With Naruto being exposed and May captured, it left him as the highest-ranking officer in Kirigakure military. Even a possible successor to the title of Mizukage. We will do no such thing if we are to avoid a civil war which would kill more of our people, declared Mangetsu fiercely. Do you really think our men would fight for a traitor? After everything that they know now? Asked Zabuza incredulously, only to receive a sharp look from Mangetsu. After everything we have been through together, do you think those men out there will pick up arms against their most beloved Kage? Do you think they'll participate in massacring him by joining forces with those nations that put us in this damned position in the first place? Maybe some think like you, Zabuza, but not the heart of the army. They'll cut you to pieces if you try to force them, warned Mangetsu. General Abe also said that he suspects Naruto exposed his truth to our nation at least through Yura so we could save ourselves from the events at the Kage Summit. That for his bitter truth, Naruto still cared for this nation, and all of us, suggested Haku hesitantly. It could be one of the reasons why he didn't teleport any of us or our men into a Wagakure, agreed Kisame. Before Zabuza could counter that argument, one of their officers, Captain Gonryu, broke into their tent and looked as if he had just seen a ghost. Lord Fourth is here. All of the 7 ninja swordsmen had varied expressions on their faces upon hearing that, even as they clearly heard the commotion among the Kirigakure army outside. Mangetsu and Haku had the barest of hope visible on their faces as they gestured everyone to take command. Kisame seemed neutral, as did Jinpachi and Amuri to an extent. Zabuza, however, looked ready to kill as his hand itched towards his sword but was stopped by a sharp look from Mangetsu. Do you truly think you can kill him? Any of us can? The fight went out of Zabuza as the reality of their situation was made crystal clear for him, making him reluctantly join his comrades to confront a man whom he hated and respected from the bottom of his heart. Naruto had chosen to wear the exact same uniform which he was dressed in when he had left the army, now assembling into formation as he descended from the skies alone, his Spartan comrades ordered to stay up in the skies and only intervene if his life was in danger. He was not disappointed when he saw his generals had already organized their respective legions into defensive formations. Granted, he had clearly announced his approach for everyone to see and had taken some time to arrive just to give them time to prepare. To say he was nervous would be an understatement, a fact quite known to him by the shaking and sweating of his hands which he kept concealed at his back as he landed on a rocky patch of terrain that allowed him to stand above the vast army before him. Warriors of Kirigakure. A brief confidence was born within the Mizukage's heart when he saw his familiar war cry made hundreds of men tremble with their usual deference, even as thousands more fought against their desire to return that greeting. If you want to kill your Mizukage, here I am. For several long moments, Naruto waited anxiously to see if anyone truly wanted to take that course of action. He was extremely touched when not a single shinobi moved forward, even if many had their weapons pointed towards him. We want the truth, Naruto. That's all, said Mangetsu honestly, earning thousands of nods from shinobi across all the legions of Kirigakure. Please tell us it's all a lie. That this is all a plot by our enemies, urged Haku desperately, and there were surprisingly many more who agreed with her feelings. You betrayed us all, Naruto. Admit it now that we have come to this point, instructed Zabuza bitterly, earning a nod from a small minority of shinobi. The 4th Mizukage looked at them all and took a deep breath before admitting, what happened at the Kage Summit is true. A commotion erupted among the army as thousands broke down in despair. Many more were numb in shock, and a handful of furious ones tried to storm forward only to be stopped by their officers and the 7 ninja swordsmen, even as Naruto didn't flinch, even as a sea of questions and accusations were thrown at him. The 4th Mizukage unleashed his full power, bringing an instant end to the chaos, as the killing intent of the man washed over everyone, making them back away. What I am about to say isn't meant to stop you from doing what you desire. You are all free men and women, the same as you were at Haidara, said Naruto loudly. The army instantly simmered down as memories of their most glorious and toughest battle came back to them. On the eve of that struggle, the 4th Mizukage had told them that unlike the Kumogakure shinobi who were fighting to protect the interests of their daimyo alone, the Kirigakure warriors was free, just as they were today, to make a choice. Even Zabuza felt a pang of regret in his heart for what was happening right now as he remembered that victory which they had all won together under the same man's command. It is true that I have hidden my past from all of you, of who I once was. But one thing which I am absolutely clear about is the fact that never have I ever betrayed Kirigakure or its people. My birth name is Minato Namikaze. I was born in Yuzushiogakure. Haku listened alongside the rest of the army as Naruto's loud voice echoed across the battlefield for everyone to hear. As the Mizukage talked about his past, she watched Mangetsu fight back his own pain of losing his own mother to war, just like Naruto lost his own parents. Looking around, she saw thousands of shinobi had experienced the same pain. Jinpachi and Amuri finally had their answers behind the Mizukage's inhuman powers when he revealed the augmentations and training he went through as part of the Spartan program. It clearly explained as to how he became so good at war and leading shinobi into suicidal battles. Kisame couldn't help but feel the shinobi world had not changed as he learned the fate of the Spartans, the Yuzukage's role in it all, the politics, and how Naruto became a pawn in the larger scheme of things. How the man who became their Mizukage wanted nothing more than to die, and even tried to take his own life at one point of time. I had lost hope and was searching for a way to die in the service of the motherland for which my comrades died. If I could establish an alliance between our nations to face our common enemies, then it would be a cause worthy to die for. But this nation and its people gave me more than what my own motherland ever had. Everyone of you, Lord Genjutsu, the 7 ninja swordsmen, made me believe in myself, this world and the future. The Kirigakure army listened as Naruto explained how he met Madara in the first place, much to the surprise of the 7 ninja swordsmen as they realized the strange shinobi who nearly kicked their asses during the mission to assassinate the lightning daimyo behind enemy lines had been the legendary Uchiha. They were all even more shocked upon learning the danger of the Otsutsuki clan against whom Madara wanted to unite the shinobi world. To actually verify the claim along with what exactly happened at the Kage Summit, the Mizukage played a recording from the astral projection technique which the Zetsus had used to capture the Kage Summit for any future witnesses to verify against any false propaganda. Naruto saw the disgust upon the faces of the Kiri shinobi when they saw the other Kages flatly ignoring the Otsutsuki threat even after seeing an actual corpse of the enemy that had tried to infiltrate and capture their tailed beasts. They listened even more attentively as the Mizukage explained what was the reason for him joining up with Madara and the capture of all Jinchuriki at his hands. An end to all wars? Asked Amiri in disbelief, earning a nod from the blonde Kage before her. With the power of every tailed beast, we can link every human and living creature of this world. What happened at the Kage Summit has shown me that even if we face an external threat that endangers our very existence, humanity will continue warring with each other. The vow to renounce war will bring an end to that conflict among humanity, and truly unite us for the first time in our existence, explained Naruto honestly. Isn't that kind of peace fake? Asked Zabuza straightforwardly. Do you want the next generation to suffer like we all have? To die like most shinobi do in this cruel world? To continue fighting for feudal lords and be annihilated by an external foe like the Otsutsuki? The 4th Mizukage was satisfied when those harsh questions made many shinobi flinch, as the thought of the future of their own children made them pause. All of it still doesn't change the fact that you are a spy, a declared enemy of the entire world, and a man who kept things from us all this time, said Kisame flatly. Nor does it change the fact that you have allied yourself with a man like Madara and his monster army. Do you truly expect us to actually fight for you and make our nation a global pariah, or worse, an enemy nation like Yuzushiogakure? Questioned Zabuza scathingly. The 2 swordsmen were confused when their questions only made the Mizukage smile ruefully before a terrifying iciness arrived in his eyes. I already told you that all of you are free to do whatever you want. I came here because I owed you all the truth after everything that has happened, and in response to your questions I want you all to know how you are behaving towards me and how I have treated you all, declared Naruto furiously. The blonde Kage looked directly at Mangetsu as his next words made the Hozuki clan head feel even more conflicted. Let me begin by talking about my mentor and your second Mizukage, Lord Genjutsu. When he took command, you were a bunch of defeated shinobi who were a laughingstock among other nations. Under his rule, you got a chance to transform from barbarians into true shinobi. With determination, he bridged the gap between the ninja clans and every other shinobi of this nation. He stood up to the water daimyo's brutality, and made all of you actually stand up for the rights of your own countrymen as you were sworn to. Lord Genjutsu had the courage to declare war on Kumogakure, lay the foundations for an alliance with the Land of Fire and Konoha, and began the reformation of your inefficient military system. He even paid with his life for doing what was right. This is what Lord Genjutsu, my mentor, did for you. Remarkable on its own, but small compared to what you have gained from me. Zabuza saw the direct impact of those words upon the men of his own legion as countless flinched and looked away from the fierce gaze of the 4th Mizukage. I crossed the ocean and lead from the front to help Kirigakure capture the strategic city of Osaka in the Land of Lightning. I sent a well-placed and superior enemy running while ensuring minimal loss of life among our forces. The Kinkaku Black Ops feared across the world once fled upon witnessing my presence. Together, we rescued Tobirama Senju, thereby laying the foundation for an alliance favored by Lord Genjutsu with the Land of Fire against our common enemies. For all of our comrades who died in that battle, I ensured their families got the spoils of our victory to safeguard their future, even standing up the furious ninja clans which none of you had ever dared to oppose before. Captain Gonri lowered his gaze as he remembered those events as if they had happened yesterday. 2 of his friends who didn't belong from any ninja clans had fallen at Osaka, and it was Naruto Namikaze who had stood up for the welfare of their bereaved families, even if it meaning earning the wrath of the ninja clans who wanted to claim all the spoils of victory. What kind of a spy put himself in that position by making enemies out of the ruling nobility for common grunts like Gonryu and his comrades? I lead a mission deep behind enemy lines that led to the assassination of the Lightning Daimyo and put our enemy's leadership in disarray. I saved your life, Mangetsu Hozuki, despite us never seeing eye to eye at that point of time on many things. The 7 ninja swordsmen remembered that act, especially Mangetsu and Haku, who couldn't help but recall how this man had used his sage mode powers to save the Hozuki clan head from a lethal wound. I established an alliance with the Land of Fire and ensured the interests of Kirigakure were safeguarded even against the opposition of my own biological father Tobirama Senju, who wanted me to agree to terms favoring his nation and their allies. I never wanted to be Mizukage, but when the flames of civil war engulfed Kirigakure, I stood up to defend the rights of our people even if it meant endangering my identity and life. I showed mercy to many of you who fought against me, knowing you wouldn't have shown me the same if the results had been reversed. Many members of the Hagoromo and Kage clans, as well as thousands of feudal warriors previously in the service of the ousted water daimyo, alongside former shinobi of Kumogakure, and the other conquered nations, looked greatly uncomfortable of being flatly reminded of that harsh reality. You call me a spy, a traitor, when I have been more loyal to this nation and its people than the country where I was born and raised. I reformed this army, ensured every one of you were strong enough and well equipped to do your duty as the protectors of Kirigakure. Have you forgotten everything all of us have been through together? Asked Naruto passionately. The Kirigakure army was speechless, even as the Mizukage was far from done. With the help of Genjutsu, he showed them all exactly what he meant by those words. I crossed the sea by creating the largest navy in the world. We defeated the monstrous turtle Genbu without suffering a single casualty. Our great march trampled our enemies as we conquered the northern regions of the Land of Lightning. I ambushed the third Reikage, destroyed his logistics alongside a considerable amount of his forces single-handedly so that my men suffer fewer casualties. At Haidara, I lead all of you against the strongest military of the world at that time. I lost my arm in defeating the Reikage just so more of you could return home alive to your families. I again led from the front in the rest of the campaign, and together we conquered Kumogakure. We did the impossible. Jinpachi and every shinobi among their army felt even more conflicted as the Genjutsu showed them visuals of all those battles that they had fought together. All the glory they had won under this man's command. The enormous resources of the Land of Lightning, the fertile plains of the Land of Hot Water, the treasures and beauty of the Land of Frost all belonged to you. Many of you are now captains and generals. What have I taken for myself that I have not shared with all of you? Nothing. I have been at the front by your side, enduring the same hardships and threats, eating the same food. Tell me one instance when I have asked anything from any of you that I am not willing to do myself? I have suffered the same wounds for the sake of your lives, glory and wealth. Even if you consider me a traitor now, I am still here by your side and am willing to die for our nation and any one of you. The fourth Mizukage's words cut deeper than any blade, reducing aim Yuri and hundreds more in the army to tears. Naruto's own gaze teared up a little when he looked at Mangetsu and Haku. We've celebrated our weddings together. Your heirs could have been my godchildren. The 7 ninja swordsmen remembered attending Naruto and May's wedding, as did Mangetsu and Haku's wedding, which the Mizukage himself had organized at such a short notice, braving all challenges and displeasure from those not invited due to the short notice. In that way, they were all practically family even if they were not related by blood. The Mizukage then looked at the army with a fire in his eyes that made his troops even more ashamed. I've paid of your debts without questions, apart from the compensation and treasures you took for yourselves in our conquests. The lands and honors bestowed upon the brave among you were given by me. Every one of us who died in the line of duty were laid to rest with full military honors. Their families are honored and exempted from all taxes. Under my command, not one of our shinobi has ever been killed fleeing from the enemy. The stark reality was harder to accept for the Kirigakure army, as not a single one of their ranks could deny all the things the 4th Mizukage had done for them. None of their former rulers or any other Kage in the world had done as much for the troops under their command. When they looked back at their leader, they saw genuine disappointment and hurt in those eyes. I tried to make peace, to make the other shinobi nations see reason and unite against the Otsutsuki threat. But they fear me and the power of Kirigakure. They are content to doom humanity's future for the sake of their own petty interests. Content to let this world be embroiled in constant warfare, thereby continuing the cycle of hatred and suffering. A vicious cycle from which I want to save all our children. Maybe I wasn't born in Kirigakure, but I have loved this nation and its people like my own family. Zabuza and Kisame flinched when the 4th Mizukage looked directly into their eyes, alongside staring at others who had not been pleased with his hidden past. In the treacherous passes of the mountain's graveyard, I'll make my final stand against the might of the entire shinobi world for the sake of everything and everyone I hold dear, even if they don't stand by my side. You are all free. Go back to your homes or choose to become puppets of the very shinobi nations that seek to take everything you have achieved for our country. Ao and many Kiri shinobi trembled in shame when they saw tears fall from their Mizukage's eyes. I will keep moving forward with Madara and our monsters until we achieve peace for humanity." The 7 ninja swordsmen alongside every shinobi of Kirigakure felt something rankle deep within their hearts upon those prophetic words, even as the skies roared with lightning. The fury and sadness which they saw within Naruto's tearful eyes and his last words before teleporting away unnerved even the most battle-hardened veterans among their ranks. "When our people and history shall judge what happened in this war, when all your great victories would be forgotten, when your memories disappear from this world with the passage of time, it will always be remembered. You left your Mizukage in the end,